So cold, but I'm so hot.
Dope boys with them now. The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Down 8 gram, headed straight to the block. Pirates, this water walk till it's hot. Listen up, look, turn a little to a lot. Right hand on the cell phone, taking orders. Left hand 360 motor to a lot. Blue hollow tips, got switches on the dot. State game, true stickers can't be stopped. Laughing at you haters while I'm thumbing through the paper. Says long at the bottom, won't you meet me at the top? The nigga ain't shit, yeah, get that a lot. Won't be deterred and I won't be stopped. Shaq Diesel number one, I post up on the block. 24/7 cause the hustle don't stop. 31 flavor, take an order like a waiter. I be selling more gas than a local truck stop. 1200 strong for a pound to the top. Got me shining, I'm a star. Ask about me, I am legend. They gon' tell you who we are. Fuck these niggas, fuck these bitches. Get money, all I know. No love for these bitches. Never saving these hoes. The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not.
When I'm thinking about the past, yeah, gon' get some nice gang, we at the spot. If we ever was short, then it's back to the block, you probably get shot. Every day the sudden change, we getting money, that's one thing, it's never gon' stop. Real dope boys do what it takes, playing high stakes, living to die. Do your time, keep it quiet, no matter who you are, don't get what you got. Stack it up, that's the bond to stay fresh. Oh, they think that you're not. Take a roll with a hoe, they gon' let you go. Somebody's gonna say you ain't hot. Just invest in yourself, don't worry about nobody else. There ain't no handout. If you say the same, put it on chain. Let them see you ain't tied down. Got a couple rain, did a lot of things. I ain't really gon' talk about it. Give me a trade, get you to go. She gon' show up and show out. So don't ask me what the dope at, cause you already your ground.
The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy, fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy, fresh with dope boy not.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm mad at myself. Normally, when I end my live, I be uploading the clips, and I had generated them. I just had took a nap, and I didn't do it. And then my crazy ass, I just always have a habit of deleting the last broadcast, and I fucked around and deleted it without putting the clips up. So yeah, I lost my shorts from the live earlier today. How y'all doing though? We back in this thing with these nasty ass teachers. Here's one. The first one, I think I got it's like 5 or 6 of them. Married Florida teacher had sex with boy in the classroom. Let's get it.
Hey guys, just know that I miss you very, very much. I know a bunch of you have reached out, just checking in on me.
That was Sarah Jackas, a middle school math teacher who's now accused of having sex with a 14-year-old boy in her classroom. I dig into the details of what Jackas is accused of doing to the boy and when, and how detectives say social media is involved.
Did they say her name was Jackass? It sounded like it.
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Sarah Jackas was a math teacher in Florida. She taught middle school students the basics of middle school math. Take a look.
You have -10. So what you have to do is you have to bring over that -10 plus 10 over here. When you rewrite it, you can do the -54y, put plus something, and then put the +10 on the outside, and you put 0.
Now she's accused of having sex with one of those students. And over the last week, she spent several days in the Orange County Jail in Orlando. Detectives say she groomed and later had sex.
Do y'all think that's her a sew-in, a weave, or extensions? Which one y'all think?
Week, she spent several days in the Orange County Jail in Orlando. Detectives say she groomed and later had sex with a 14-year-old boy who was a student of hers at a middle school in Orange County, and that she communicated with him using messages on Apple and a Bob the Builder Instagram account. Yes, Bob the Builder, the kids' TV show character. That student is now 16 years old. And earlier this month, deputies say he told his parents that he had sex with Jackus when he was 14. Jackus was teaching at Corner Lakes Middle School at the time in the fall of 2022. Deputies say that the student was having issues fitting in and hanging out with the right crowd. So he ate lunch with Jackus in her classroom. Now, deputies say that Jackus started to isolate the boy by not allowing other students to come in and have lunch with them. And so they formed a strong bond. They would talk to each other about their problems. An arrest affidavit says the inappropriate relationship started back in 2023. Deputies wrote,
why is a grown woman talking to a child about her problems? Like, do these motherfuckers not have anybody else to talk to? Like, bitch, you ain't got no therapist you can talk to. You talk to your student.
Sarah gave victim 1 her personal number so she could be contacted by the victim. V1 and Sarah would communicate through text messages about topics, but was caught texting Sarah until approximately 1 a.m. one morning by his parents. So his parents told V1 to stop texting Sarah because it was inappropriate. Sarah then began communicating with V1 through Instagram from an account with the username Bob the Builder 115520. Sarah later told V1 to delete the messages between them so he did.
So she was trying to be slick. The little boy said, hey man, my folks said I can't text you no more because it's inappropriate. And she was like, that's fine. I'm gonna make the Bob the Builder IG page and I'll hit you up on there. Again, what be going through these motherfuckers' heads?
Not have a record of them. So deputies say the relationship started with the inappropriate touching and escalated from there. Deputies wrote, beginning around January of 2023, Sarah began touching V1, which started as Sarah grabbing V1's hand to Sarah rubbing his arm. V1 kissed Sarah on the cheek one day while giving her a hug, which V1 described as opening the door for Sarah.
What do you mean go on mute? I've been on mute. What's wrong with you people? What's wrong with y'all?
Sarah to progress their relationship. V1 would spend time with Sarah during lunch, and it would be the two of them.
Oh no, what do you want? Good night. He done came in there and got you riled up. Now you moving around.
Why was the light on?
What do you mean why was the light on? Because he just came in there. Yeah, you supposed to been asleep. Hold on, y'all. I'm twisting her earrings around there. Put some lotion on your face, dry skin, baby. Go to bed. You know I ain't gonna show you no mercy in the morning when you try to say 5 more minutes. Nope. Get up. Now they aren't out of school tomorrow, but they gave them a half day for some odd reason. And not a half day, they let them be out of uniform. That's what they gave them. Just randomly let them be out of uniform. What? Ah, y'all heard the conversation. Okay. Well, it is what it is. Then I know what that is. My Bluetooth. I have my Bluetooth on. Whatever. Anyway, that was okay. So since you motherfuckers is nosy and things of that nature, was that mean? Yeah, I be forgetting. Normally you're supposed to cut the headphones on before you hit the live, but when you hit the live, you was a cow. That was, but what was that? I used to poke my lip out. He just go put us in his business. We the asked to be. Oh well, yeah. Again, it was hooked up to the Bluetooth headphones. That wasn't mean. That was parenting but amongst men's. That was parenting, because if y'all heard everything, y'all heard me just say, hey, I got everything else except for the stuff you need. You got to do some things. But other than that, no, go. I've told him I want him to stack his money. Stack his money. That's what I told him. Stack your money. That's it. That's my way of helping out. You don't pay no bills or none of that. Just take care of yourself, stack your money. I don't know how that's mean yours truly. I wish my mama would have did me like that. I'd probably still be living at home. Shit. Well, I didn't want y'all to be in there in the first place. I thought I had muted myself, but oh well, at least y'all know I ain't no ghetto ass parent. Y'all can at least surmise that I ain't no ghetto ass parent.
Alone and occasionally kiss. But then detectives said the teenage boy revealed that one day during lunch, Sarah Jackas covered the windows and locked the door to the room. Detectives say she pulled down her pants and laid down on a pillow and told the boy how to have sex with her. The boy told Jackas that it was okay for him to ejaculate because she had a chip for birth control. Now let's get back to that Bob the Builder Instagram account that I mentioned earlier. The arrest affidavit says that the boy told detectives that Sarah Jackas created that account after his mom caught him texting the teacher at 1 a.m. and his mom told Jackas they couldn't text anymore because it was inappropriate. So Jackas created that Instagram account.
We listening to these nasty teachers.
Bob the Builder 115520. The boy said the numbers were code. The affidavit states V1 later clarified 115 meant I miss you and 520 meant I love you. V1 said high five meant a kiss. Sarah would post stuff on the account's story so she could communicate with V1. V1 described there would be poll type questions posted to the story or instructions on how to respond to the story, like respond with a heart if this, or if this, don't respond. V1 said he was the only follower of the account, and V1's account was the only one the account followed. Through this method, V1 and Sarah were able to communicate with each other over winter break. V1 was afraid his parents would find out he was communicating with Sarah again, so he would stick with the new method of communication. Now, the boy also told detectives that Jackas would talk dirty to him on Instagram, saying things like, and this is a direct quote, listen to this, I just had sex with my husband and it wasn't the best, but I imagined it was you. Then right before spring break in 2023, the affidavit said that Sarah Jackas and the boy had sex for the first time. This is how the 14-year-old boy says he lost his virginity. The boy told detectives they had sex several times that week, and Sarah couldn't believe they had done it. But then the week of spring break, things began to unravel, according to detectives.
I'm not. And then I had made spaghetti, and I said, you got some spaghetti? See, I'm not. Y'all, women and men are different, so y'all just hush with y'all women. Just be quiet. We still cave in too. We cave in, but we have to lead by example. If that's the best way to say it. Yeah, lead by example.
Detectives wrote, throughout spring.
I'm glad I wasn't saying nothing. I'm glad I wasn't talking about nothing freaky. Shit. That would have been embarrassing.
Break of 2023, V1 was contacted by the Bob the Builder 115520 account and was asked what they were going to do and what they had been doing. V1 responded saying they'd been having sex. V1 was then contacted by an unknown number. And when he answered, Sarah was on the other end of the call. Sarah told V1 it was her husband texting V1 from the account impersonating Sarah. Sarah's husband took Sarah's phone while they were playing softball one day and was the one messaging V1. Sarah told V1 not to say anything and she might have to leave the school. Sarah also instructed V1 to delete their messages, and Sarah deactivated the Instagram account Bob the Builder 115520. So that comment about possibly having to leave the school is pretty interesting because Jackas actually posted on YouTube on April 7th of that year, and she was talking to her students about being on leave. Take a look.
Hey guys, just know that I miss you very, very much. I know a bunch of you have reached out, just checking in on me, and I truly, truly appreciate those messages, texts, all that, emails. I really, really appreciate you guys. So thank you. Just making this video just to keep you guys updated because this will probably be the last time that you hear from me. Just because I really am trying to focus and take some time away from work and just focus on me. And that's something that I need to do. And to be able to do that means that I need to plug away from everything. So just please make sure you guys are giving your full attention to Mr. Maslowski. As a lot of you guys know, he's going to be the new teacher until I come back, which I really can't answer that question when that's going to happen. So people that are saying I'm quitting, no, it's not that I'm quitting. I'm just taking this time. And I don't know what that means, whether I'm coming back in a couple weeks or if I'm coming back never. So just know that I am working on myself, and just has nothing to do with you guys.
Lately, I've been seeing some really amazing makeup trends on social media, but no matter the trend, I feel like there's always that one brand you come back to. And for me, it's Thrive Cosmetics. And honestly, I'm so excited that they're sponsoring Crime Fix because I've been using it for a while now. And made back to first time discover your exclusive 20% Crime Fix for she was away from school and she didn't your first order. So in that video, Jacka said she was working on herself and that's why she was away from school and she didn't want the students blaming themselves. But detectives said she didn't come back to school until the last day of the school year. The affidavit says Sarah returned for one morning after coming back from spring break and did not come back until the last day. V1 was not contacted by Sarah or the fake account until the last day of the year. The agreement Sarah and her husband reached was Sarah could not go near V1 either at a redacted place or at any places V1 frequented, like the basketball courts. V1 would play basketball. So after this, detectives said that Sarah Jackas told the student about her personal Instagram account, NYJets Mommy, and that she would view his Instagram stories using that account. The arrest affidavit contains a number of redacted messages between Jackas and the teen. Detectives also recorded a phone call between the boy and Jackas after he reported all of this stuff to them. She was arrested and charged with a number of counts, including lewd and lascivious battery, and one count of an authority figure soliciting or engaging in sexual conduct or rape. Okay, so to talk about all of the disturbing details in this case, I want to bring...
She got way more charges than that lady from the other day.
In somebody who we talk to about these really disturbing cases all of the time, and there are way too many of them. He is Dan Shore. He is a former sex crimes prosecutor, and he's also the author of a new book coming out next month. We're going to talk about that at the end of the interview a little more. It's called Open Bar, and it's about sexual abuse in educational institutions. Dan, thanks for coming back on. Your first thoughts about this case involving Sarah Jackas, yikes, is all I can say. You know, I'm reading through the affidavit, and the allegations are that this teacher starts grooming this kid. I mean, that's how it always starts.
Right. Thanks for having me here. It's always good to talk with you. On the one hand, you read these allegations, and I think they appear shocking if you aren't exposed to this type of material a lot. As a sex crimes prosecutor and someone who investigates sexual misconduct with schools, unfortunately, it's not as shocking as you would think, because this is the pattern that we see in many, many cases. You mentioned the grooming. That's often how sex abuse like this between a teacher and a student happens, where there's a kind of connection and a talking. And now more and more we see the text messages back and forth that happened here, establishing a relationship. The allegations are that it started with just non-sexual type of touching, which is so inappropriate for a teacher, led to kissing, and then ultimately to sexual intercourse, according to the allegations. So it was a pattern of grooming that allegedly took place over time. And we do see that a lot in these cases, unfortunately.
The one thing that makes me really sad about this case, all of these cases make me sad, but the one thing that makes me sad is this kid felt like he wasn't fitting in. So he would eat lunch with this teacher, with Sarah Jackas. And so that's kind of how this started. And that's a kid, you know, you're a kid that doesn't feel like they fit in. That shows a vulnerability and somebody who's feeling isolated. So that's just somebody who might be a predator. That's like, ooh, easy pickings right there.
Right. And we definitely see that in a lot of these cases where the target of the sex abuse is often someone who is vulnerable, who is alone, who doesn't have a support network. If someone has a very strong support network, very often they're going to tell someone else early on in the grooming stages about what's happening. So often people who engage in this type of sex abuse with underage students, they identify people who are more vulnerable, don't have a support network, and are more likely to keep things quiet as the grooming progresses. And that's what the allegations say here, that this was someone who really thrived on getting attention from this teacher and wanted that attention. And then the grooming from that led to the sexual encounters that are described in the affidavit.
Yeah, the affidavit says that around November of 2022, so this is going back a little ways, almost 3 years ago, he starts eating lunch with her, and then the victim and Sarah began to form a bond because they're spending all this time together. And apparently the victim would talk to Sarah about his problems, they'd talk to each other about their problems. So we've got a possible boundary issue there of Sarah was talking to a 14-year-old about her problems. That's a no-no. Beyond like, oh, maybe I'm like, having a problem with, my lawnmower or something like that. And Sarah had asked for his phone number, which I still can't get over. Apparently this happens now these days. I was a substitute teacher years ago. I would never have asked for a kid's phone number. The reason she did was because Sarah was known to have somebody else's phone number so they could communicate about topics. And then apparently the victim said he hugged her one time and then out of instinct kissed her on the cheek. Like when he hugs his mom, he kisses her on the cheek, which is instinctual for him. And then he apologized for the kiss on the cheek, and Sarah said it was okay. And then then she kissed victim 1 on the mouth. And then victim 1 and Sarah began kissing each other each day after that. Yikes, Dan. So the kid says this was like innocent. It's like hugging his mom. And then she's just like, oh, it's okay. And then she kisses him on the mouth.
Right. And I think it's important to look at it from the perspective of the student. He says he was 14 at the time. This is a teacher. And remember, what are we told about teachers? We're told they're authority figures. Parents always tell their kids, listen to your teacher, respect your teacher. Kids get in trouble when they don't follow the directions of the teacher. So I think it's instinctual in a lot of people to feel, well, if my teacher is doing this, then it's probably okay, especially if someone's vulnerable. And as I said before, they don't have a support network. So that's part of the abuse and control of being an authority, that you can make it seem to someone else who's younger that, no, this is okay, I'm the teacher. And he went along with that. And the affidavit describes how the sexual activity progressed until they allegedly had sexual intercourse a few times in the classroom. And it's interesting reading the affidavit about how the parents of this victim did find out about text messages that were going back and forth between this teacher and the student. And they put a stop to that, but then they started communicating over other social media platforms, Instagram, to avoid the text messages. So there's a lot of deception that was needed to stop the parents from knowing how far this was going. And again, this is something, unfortunately, I've seen in other cases I've investigated where, especially nowadays, there's a lot of communication, text message, social media messaging, and that's a way to connect. And that's why it's important for schools to put a stop to that teachers should not be communicating with their students after hours unless it's specifically about a class assignment. There's no reason why they should be in a social way communicating through text message or phone call with someone who's 14 years old.
They shouldn't even be talking about them with a class assignment. What the fuck?
And, there's even more, Dan. I mean, there's more.
You ask questions about a class assignment in class, and they have these apps for the school now, Power School, Class Dojo, whole bunch of shit where they can't directly contact you, but they can send a message to Class Dojo and you get a notification. These folks is just perverted.
She apparently told him at one point something, according to the affidavit, that I had sex with my husband last night. It wasn't that.
You know what? Yeah, I think we was right when we said there might have been some clips or extensions, because her hair was really, well, it could have been dyed too, but it was really, really black, and it almost looked like a different texture in that first photo. I hate red lipstick, and her eyebrows ain't arched like they was in the first photo where she had the extra black hair.
Good, but I imagined it was you.
Why do I notice this shit?
I mean, the ick factor on this one, I know that all of these stories are disturbing because these are kids involved in this and teachers who are authority figures, but this is just like the ick factor goes beyond anything. And maybe it's because we're seeing such graphic detail here, but it's really, really bad. I mean, I guess they're all bad, but we're reading all of these details, and it's really, really hard to read.
Absolutely. And not only that, not only does she say that I was having sex with my husband and it wasn't that great, but I got through it because I was thinking of you. And I believe, if I remember correctly, this is before they actually had sexual intercourse, but they were having some type of sexual contact, but they ultimately did have sex, the student and the teacher. But then later, the teacher tells the student that my husband found out about what's happening between us. And it kind of implies that he may come after the student. So the student all of a sudden then has this horrified situation where not only is he having sex with his teacher, but the teacher's husband found out about it, and he's understandably very upset about that. So the stress that this puts on a student, and you can only imagine the result.
Man, that old nigga better not have went up to their school trying to fight that little ass boy. Like, nigga, hit your wife. How you gonna fight the nigga? How you gonna fight the little boy? He don't know if she married or not. Do you think they had that conversation? Well, she did say she had sex with her husband and was trash. Imagine being the husband and having to see that text message. Ooh. They better be divorced, is all I'm gonna say. They better be divorced right now.
Trauma that is not going to be a short-term thing in most cases. And people carry it around for years, if not their whole lives, to go through something like this when they're underage. And I think society wrongly often looks at male students who are having sex with a female teacher as less of a victim. And there's kind of this wink, wink, nod, nod. Oh yeah, they want sex, they're teenagers. But I think they overlook the trauma that it's caused when someone's 14, they're not mature yet, and they're having this sexual experience with a teacher who's abusing their authority, taking advantage of them, and putting them in this really terrible situation. And I think society takes it more seriously than when I started my career as a sex crimes prosecutor about 25 years ago, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think there still is, that stigma, because every time I do one of these stories, I think it's important that we kind of try to, address that a lot of people are like, oh, where was she when I was, that age? But really, I mean, this is trauma inflicted upon these boys. They're boys. This is a 14-year-old with an authority figure, with an adult. And so this can be very traumatic. And I've talked to prosecutors in the past who've handled these cases who say, the victims years later, they realize the effects of this on themselves, and it is traumatic. Talk to me a little bit about that, about how these victims deal with that years later. They come to the realization that as kids, as teenagers, they were victimized. Maybe they're not processing it at the time, but they're coming to the realization that, I was preyed upon.
Yes, and I've investigated cases where people have reported this years later, many years later. Sometimes as adults, people want to go back and make a complaint, might be past the statute of limitations, but they could still make a complaint with the school because they realize this has had a detrimental effect on their life, on their ability to have healthy relationships with other people. If your introduction to sexual activity is through a situation like this, where there's an abuse of power and control and you're underage, then that unfortunately can have a very serious effect on your ability just to have normal, healthy relationships with people as you're growing and maturing. And that's something that, as we were just talking about before, I still see when people know that I'm talking, when they see maybe an interview I've done with you about a topic like this or a case I'm investigating, I still hear from other people, oh yeah, he was a lucky kid. I wish that happened to me, people say. And I think people really miss the major point that sex abuse here can have a traumatic impact on a student, whether they're male or female. But we've come a long way. I can tell you people take it a lot more seriously. Law enforcement takes it a lot more seriously than they did a decade or 2 decades ago. So we are going in the right direction.
One thing is on here, they talk about how the teacher, Sarah, she's a math teacher, a middle school teacher. She creates this Instagram account. This boy is not supposed to be texting her anymore. She creates this Bob the Builder username Instagram account. It's just it's so tawdry. Bob the Builder, that's a children's character. Yeah. How do we like keep these people out of education? Are we not vetting these teachers properly? What's going on here? Like what is going on that these people are slipping through the cracks and they're not? I was prayed out. Everybody's got a mask on. You always hear that. Obviously, I was prayed. If you're in a job interview with somebody and you say, so are you attracted to teenage boys? So you would say, of course I'm not. Of course I'm not. How do you do this? How do you do better screening? What do we do?
Right. So in my career, I've been a part of organizations that did this type of background screening, and you're looking for people's media presence, social media presence, any criminal records, civil litigation that they've been a part of. You interview someone, you see if they've had maybe disciplinary records at educational institutions before. But if someone has successfully gotten their degree, become a teacher, they've never been arrested, they've never been sued, they've never put anything on social media.
It was definitely younger there, and the hair is long and flowing.
Really screen out someone who has the ability to do something like this. And we definitely want better screening, but if there's not something in the public record or that's revealed in an interview with somebody, a school will never know if this is the first time that someone's done something like this, or if they've done it before, but it's never been publicly disclosed. That's really important. But what the problem that we sometimes see is sometimes a teacher moves on from one school to another school, and then the new school never knows about what happened in the prior school, where there was some type of misconduct, and then they reoffend at the new school. And we definitely need better communication about when people leave to a new job, what they might have done at their previous position. But if this woman had never engaged in conduct like this before, it would not be found through a background search. So that's a problem with trying to weed out people who would do such type of misconduct.
This all came to a head, this whole case, earlier this month. They started looking into this. He's calling her. The calls aren't going through. The cops pick her up. They charge her. They've got, it sounds like a treasure trove of evidence against her. They not only have the statements, but they have a lot of Apple messages, the iMessages between these two. They're redacted. They're all blacked out in the arrest warrant. So we'll see what happens with the case. But do you find this to be a compelling amount of information and evidence that the prosecution, or at least the sheriff's office detectives, have gathered at this point in time?
Absolutely. And those electronic communications are extremely important for a case like this, because if someone who is a defendant in a case like this says, oh, no, we never had any type of conduct that was sexual or inappropriate in any way, then how do they explain the fact that there are all these messages? Why are you messaging this many times in such a familial way to a 14-year-old? And also, there's so many details in the story from the 14-year-old in the affidavit about going into the classroom with the teacher, specifically where he was touched, how the first time they actually had sexual intercourse, how she blacked out the windows and no one could see and locked the door, and how she had a pillow that they had sex on. So there's a lot of specifics, and those specifics are often very powerful in terms of showing the credibility of someone making a complaint. It's sometimes appears less credible if someone's more vague and their details are really unclear. But this affidavit has a lot of specifics, and it would be hard to contest them. But the respondent, of course, is innocent until proven guilty. So we'll see what their defense is.
Yeah, we will see. And, she's incarcerated right now. She's in the Orange County Jail down there in Orlando. So we'll see where the case goes. At this point, she'll plead not guilty to the charges, and the case will make its way through the courts. Tell me about Open Bar, when it comes out, and what it's about.
Great. So Open Bar is my second novel. It's about sexual misconduct at educational institutions. It's a fast-moving political thriller, and it's based on my real investigations as a prosecutor and an investigator. So if people want to learn more, I have a newsletter about this type of these books and these type of issues on Substack. So people can find me, Dan Shore, there. And August 12th, Open Bar comes out.
All right. Well, we will keep an eye on it. Dan Shore, thanks for your time as always. We appreciate it.
It's great talking with you. Thanks for having me.
Orange County Schools reached out to the parents in the district. Part of the message read, Corner Lake Middle School families, this is Principal Browning calling to make you aware that one of our employees has been arrested after allegations of misconduct from 2 years ago were reported. I can assure you I take all allegations very seriously, and there is an ongoing investigation by law enforcement and the district's Office of Professional Standards. Although I cannot discuss employee matters, please know this person will not be returning to campus pending the outcome of the investigation. Now, Sarah Jack has posted bail, so she's no longer in the Orange County Jail. And we'll continue to follow this case for you. That's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.
That's so dramatic. Teacher got student high to rape him, then confessed her love. What is wrong with these old bitches? She look crazy though. She do look like she crazy, like she'll kill a nigga or two. But she got him high?
A Los Angeles teacher claims she's in love with a former student who she allegedly had a relationship with for more than a year. What's worse, the student was only 13 years old when all of this is said to have started. She's now accused of staking out the boy's high school, luring him into her car with drugs and raping him there. On other occasions, she allegedly raped him in her own classroom. Prosecutors now say she left her husband for the boy, claiming she's willing to go to jail for this teenager, even calling the student her version of crystal meth. It's a shocking case with a lot happening all around, so we'll hear from
her version of crystal meth? What in the white suburban America are we doing here? I guess this be considered white on white crime.
On other occasions, she allegedly raped him in her own classroom. Prosecutors now say
we gotta take that all the way back. I didn't miss something.
More than a year.
I missed something.
A Los Angeles teacher claims she's in love with a former student who she allegedly had a relationship with for more than a year. What's worse, the student was only 13 years old when all of this is said to have started. She's now accused of staking out the boy's high school, luring him into her car with drugs and raping him there. On other occasions, she allegedly raped him in her own classroom. Prosecutors now say she left her.
Hey man, you mean to tell me this bitch didn't have nothing else better to do with her time than to stalk this nigga? What the fuck? Then she got a little tiny dog. She probably ain't. She ain't married at all. She look like she's single because of the little small tiny dog.
Husband for the boy, claiming she's willing to go to the classroom, into her car with drugs and raping him there. On other occasions, she allegedly raped him in her own classroom. Prosecutors now say she left her husband for the boy, claiming she's willing to go to jail for this teenager, even calling the student her version of crystal meth. It's a shocking case with a lot happening all around.
Oh, she a thought. Y'all see the two? She got the two roses above the titties. She got a tattoo on her arm. She a little toss jack. But not at least I guess she did the right thing in leaving her husband because she didn't want to cheat. I guess she did the right thing, but this bitch says she was willing to go to jail, and guess what? Your ass going to jail. But now she a little thought though. I like them tattoos though, but she a little thought. She definitely it gives thought. That's what I'm saying. The teachers in 2025 compared to the teachers when I started going to school in like 1990. Well, no, 90 or 88. started going to school, 87, 88. They was all old and had fupas and gray hair and wrinkled skin and looked like they had just been, they had taught George Washington and shit. These hoes is fine now. They got tongue rings and shit. Not saying she fine. I'm just saying some of the teachers I didn't seen. Jordan, you remember Miss Wright? Smashed her. Okay, I'm gonna push play.
So we'll hear from criminal defense attorney and former
They were his 4th grade teacher.
sex crimes prosecutor Kathleen Bogenschutz to try to make sense of it all. I'm Sierra Gillespie, and this is Law and Crime News. This type of case is unfortunately one we cover pretty regularly here on Law and
She
Crime.
was the first teacher I had seen with tattoos and a tongue ring at parent-teacher conferences, and so, yeah. I waited until he was out her class, though, for conflict of interest. I waited. But I'm just saying.
Right. A teacher abusing their position of authority and allegedly sexually assaulting one of their students. But this case may be even more intense than the others. Here's the defendant, 43-year-old Colleen Jo Matarico. She's being held in jail right now on a pretty sizable bond, but before her arrest, she was a special ed teacher at John Burroughs Middle School in Los Angeles. Also of note, Matarico is married and the mother of 2 children. Prosecutors say she got wind of the investigation into her illegal conduct last year, and instead of backing down, she became more severe. That's when she apparently went to the victim's high school, gave him some marijuana, and then forced him to have sex with her inside of his car. That incident happened just this year.
Don't judge me, judge your motherfucking self. I told y'all she a thought looking at tattoos. That she hiding the motherfucker with this black ass hat on the beach, looking like a golf chick. A goth chick. But yeah, she got one in the middle there too. I ain't see that one in the other one. Yeah, girl, you gonna spend your best years in jail. And they keep describing what she did as rape. In other cases, they say they had sexual contact or they had sex or whatchamacallit. They are specifically constantly saying she took it. Why she look Chinese right there?
She's being held in jail right now on a pretty sizable bond, but before her arrest, she was a special ed teacher at John Burroughs Middle School in Los Angeles. Also of note.
You was sleeping with the retarded kids? Oh, throw this bitch under the jail. She was sleeping with the retarded kids. Wait a minute. This look like an elementary school. Well, it say middle school, okay. And they said she did stalk him outside of his school. So he was in the high school, which is probably next to the middle school. And instead of her teaching the special ed kids, she watching this nigga. He must have been a star football player or something.
Matarico is married and the mother of 2 children. Prosecutors say she got wind of the investigation into her illegal conduct last year, and instead of backing down, she became more severe. That's when she apparently went to the victim's high school, gave him some marijuana, and then forced him to have sex with her inside of his car. That incident happened just this year, but investigators say the relationship started long before. Most of their sexual encounters were
I definitely don't agree with she forced him to. He wanted to. Now, was she still wrong? Yes, she was wrong as a motherfucker. But she didn't force him because he definitely is stronger than her. Now, this is who Bams wants to be. Y'all see the eyelashes and shit there? This is Bams without the drugs. This is who she want to be. She must think she a nigga. She's a mud shark. I can tell how she got the hair combed over. She got the big ass lashes now, which I didn't see in the other photos. She got the hood tattoos everywhere. Look at the shit. Tattooed here, just everywhere. She thinks she a nigga. This is sober Bams. Bams 15 years ago.
Allegedly between August and November of 2023. Investigators believe Matarico started by grooming this student, eventually convincing him to have sex with her in her classroom. According to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, Matarico took advantage of a position of trust and confidence as a teacher to commit these offenses. The boy
She think well, nah, she ain't got the cut, but she do everything else. She ain't gonna do the cut. That's the white part. She gonna keep the white part. She like, I ain't gonna do that, but everything else I'm gonna go with.
Rico took advantage of a position of trust and confidence as a teacher to commit these offenses. The boy was just 13 when all this started, but some of these alleged incidents happened after he turned 14 too. The school was tipped off to this alleged abuse in October.
Hey man, you left your husband for a 13-year-old ma'am. I bet she Christian. I bet she believe in God. She gonna say something about God in her sentencing. Watch it. She left her husband for a 13-year-old. Not you know what cut. Yeah, you were talking about the black girl haircut. That all the mud sharks get. The bob.
October 2023, and that's when the Los Angeles Police Department's Juvenile Division began the investigation. The middle school released a statement reading, quote, once cleared by the Los Angeles Police Department to notify the school community, a notification was sent to families about these allegations. District protocols are being followed, and we remain in cooperation with local authorities. Due to the ongoing investigation by law enforcement, we are unable to disclose additional details about this matter. Please be assured that the safety of our students continues to be our utmost priority. Students and the greater school community are always encouraged to share any and all concerns with their school or with local authorities. We remain committed to supporting Borough's MS, meaning middle school, and the greater school community.
I don't know why y'all would be shocked that I know this. They hang around, they like black boys, they like niggas, so they be around us. Yes, so I don't know why y'all would be shocked. Just like they hang around y'all to be around the black kids. They do the same thing with the dudes because they like black dudes. So yeah, I done seen this shit firsthand, a whole bunch. There is nothing a child can do for me. Just say it, man. What you said? Like 13 though. So I was correct when I was saying she was fucking the special ed kids. 13 is what, 6th grade? 6 going to 7th grade? In between? What the fuck?
Counseling and support services. We understand that some students may be impacted by this incident. Students can always reach out to teachers, counselors, or school staff for support. Hey, if you're out and about running errands while you're listening to this video, listen up. I use it every time and claim an offer about how much you could promo code LC News. Matarico was ultimately charged to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Matarico was ultimately charged with 5 felony counts of lewd act upon a child under age 14, 2 more felony counts of lewd act upon a child age 14 and 15, and 1 felony count of furnishing a controlled substance to a minor. She pleaded not guilty to these charges and appeared in court just this week.
I don't fucking know how old you supposed to be. How old are you supposed to be? Just 6th grade. Yeah, that's about right, yours truly. That's about right, because most people graduate when they're 18. They 13 in the 6th, 12. I said 12 to 13. 6th, 7th grade. You ain't got number 5 more years left. 13, 15, 6th, 7th grade. Yeah. Depending on when their birthday is. Depending on when their birthday is. But yeah, it's still, we give or take a year. But yeah, he was in middle school though. And she was a middle school special ed teacher.
Shocking details about Matarico's alleged conduct. After her arrest, prosecutors say Matarico didn't have any remorse. Instead, she said she was willing to go to jail for this boy. And
I think I was 14 in 9th grade. Yeah, because I graduated. I turned 18 before we graduated. Before I was able to get my license and shit and go to the prom. We were like, we still at that time, we was able to go, I don't know, we skipped school and everything. It was crazy. We skipped school as a group and like 2 people failed. We went on a mass going to get our driver's license mission in Millington.
Even left her husband because she was so obsessed with the student. This is the part where prosecutors compared the boy to a drug, saying he's Madarico's form of crystal meth. Prosecutors argued that if she was released on bond, the boy would then be in danger. They pointed to Instagram DMs.
Okay, so I told y'all I made spaghetti. I told Grayson it after school, and she was like, ugh, your last spaghetti was a 1 out of 10, even though she ate all of it. She said it was a 1 out of 10, and her auntie spaghetti was better. I was like, I think you need to give me another chance. I do. I think maybe you were in a bad mood, and you said it was kind of cold, so try this one. And she ate the first bowl, and I was like, how is it? And then she said, well, I'm going to roll this dice. And whatever it say, because somehow she came home with a damn big green ass dice from school. And she said, whatever it say, that's what you get. I do not put sugar in my motherfucking spaghetti. I do not. She shook it. It hit a 6. And she was like, wow, you did a 6 out of 10. It's the best spaghetti ever. And then she asked for some more. But yeah, she's a hard motherfucking critic. A 1 out of 10, I shouldn't even made nothing. I'm gonna just start. I'm gonna give her some what's this shit that already come in the motherfucking? This is I can't think of. I'm about to say Dinty Moore, but this beef stew, whatever that shit is, that kitchen complete. So I'm gonna just start getting her with it with them little pre-cooked spaghettis. She just is hard on me. I think that shit have sugar in it though. She wasn't hungry. It was good. Why it couldn't be it was good, Candy? Why I gotta be she was hungry? Cause actually she's a stubborn little tail girl. She will she ain't gonna eat. If she don't want it, she ain't gonna eat. And I'd be like, you don't go, you ain't gonna eat nothing then. She cool with it. She be like, all right, nigga, give me some chips. That's what she do.
When Madarico had apparently reached out to the boy's friend in hopes of getting in contact with him. A public defender is the one representing Madarico and pointed to her clean criminal record at this hearing, suggesting she should be released. A judge ultimately set Madarico's bond to $590,000, saying that if Madarico puts up the bond, she'll still be subjected to GPS monitoring. Meanwhile, the case is still under investigation, as LAPD officials believe there could be even more victims. If that's true, Madarico could face even more charges. Okay, one thing's for sure about this case, the allegations are pretty disturbing. So to try to make sense of that, we've got to turn to criminal defense attorney Kathleen Bogan. Kathleen, thank you for coming on with us today.
They got some real ass names on this motherfucker.
So something that stood out to me right away about this case actually was mentioned by the LA County District Attorney, that this teacher abused her position of power. She took advantage of a student. She's supposed to be an authority that they can trust. Is that something you agree with?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's even some states, including my state of Florida, that have created these new statutes that have criminalized simply being in that position of authority. So even if a student was 18 and a teacher, turn 18 sometime your senior year and starts having some kind of relationship with the teacher, anywhere outside of the school, that would be technically legal, although depending on the age difference, we might all frown on it. There would be nothing to prosecute. But that has been criminalized in and of itself. But here we've got a giant age gap. We've got a middle schooler, we've got a position of authority. And I even read that in one place that she continued the relationship even after she knew there was an investigation going on.
Yeah, that's actually accurate. What investigators have said, that she kind of got wind of this investigation and she doubled down. She still continued to talk to this student and actually went to his high school and allegedly had sex with him outside in a car. She said she's in love with this student. She said she'll leave her husband for him. She's obsessed. I don't know. What do you make of all that?
She followed my nigga from middle school to high school. Hey, can't handle the truth. You've been running the muck over there on Facebook. I've been seeing that you running the muck.
No, I mean, at some point she mentioned that this was her crystal meth.
Using them damn AI apps.
In the messages. And one of the things that I'm not a scientist, but I sometimes I play one on TV or in a courtroom because we do expert witnesses.
Well, can't handle the truth. That don't make no damn sense. No sugar in spaghetti, just a pinch in the sauce. Nigga, if it go in the sauce, it's in the spaghetti. Damn, I hope you meant a pinch of salt, because you ain't say, but you said no sugar in spaghetti. So I know you ain't putting a pinch in nothing, because there's still sugar in the spaghetti.
because the spaghetti noodles gotta go in the sauce. I had to see. I told my wife friend is special.
And one thing that some of my experts have pointed out in the past is that the same dopamine receptors that things like cocaine and meth and stuff like that light up in the brain also light up when you're in love. And for some people, like if you're eating a food that you terribly enjoy, they do light up the same receptors. And for me, I mean, she's 43 years old. She's a mother. She's got kids. They're the same age as this victim.
43, so she was 40. Well, fuck it. We just gonna say 43 fucking a 14-year-old. Man, look. I just want to know where the mamas at in these cases. Ain't no mamas caught no assault charge. That's all I want to know. Ain't no mamas whoop these hoes when they. Matter of fact, didn't they say this nigga's folks told him to stop texting her because it was inappropriate, and then she made an IG page? I would have IG'd her not upside her head if I was that mama. Like, bitch, you gonna keep, I just told this nigga stop texting you, you gonna hit him up on IG. All right.
Or at least fairly close to it. One of the things that I would be considering if I was representing her is the whole works, head to toes, for medical as well as psych evals, because to just suddenly begin taking these kinds of risks at age 43, you don't go out and start committing crimes at 43. That's not what you see when you're a prosecutor.
She might have already been doing it with special needs kids.
And I was a prosecutor for 12 years. You see crimes beginning late teens, early 20s.
Somebody got to man the damn 227 chopper. Y'all ain't doing it no more. So yeah, I got to be in the chopper, be everywhere. It's be shit going on.
And for somebody to just take a turn like this at 43 leads me to believe that there's something else going on in her life, or that stuff has happened in the past that maybe has either not been reported or caught.
So let's talk about the starting of this crime, because as you said, she's 3 years old at this time, and the student was 13. I just am always wondering, how does something like this even get started? I mean, you go to school, there's your teacher, that's the relationship that you have, but then apparently she started grooming this student. So how does it jump from student teacher to now she says she's allegedly in love with him?
Yeah, and grooming is the word that we use. So 8 of the 12 years that I was a prosecutor, I did sex crimes, not did them, but prosecuted them, obviously. But it starts by almost moving the goalposts. That's the way I always used to describe it to a jury. Well, I can cross the line, or I can kind of tiptoe closer to the line, maybe confide in the student more than I would confide in a normal student, speak to that student like they're an adult, meet them after class, do things that are a little bit outside the normal teacher stuff. And as the student doesn't act uncomfortable, as the student seems to be enjoying it, as the student really enjoys, being a teacher's pet or a special friend of the teacher, you kind of move the goalposts a little bit further. So whether it is intentional, whether somebody is a true predator and is thinking their way through, moving the goalposts, or whether it's just something that happens, I don't know. But that is generally the trajectory that you will take in these cases. It's you move.
Why all lawyers had that same chair in therapists?
See how much further you can go, and nobody reports it. And then you take another step across the line, and then you take another step across the line. And unfortunately, when we're talking about a middle schooler and a middle school teacher, you have fairly unfettered access to the child during school hours. So, I mean, I'm not trying to freak out all the parents out there, but it does make sense to me, and I'm a parent as well, as to how this could occur.
Yeah, you're right. They do have crazy access to the students because they're seeing them all the time. And actually, the school was the scene of at least one of these alleged instances. Apparently, she had sex with a student in her classroom, and then a different time in her vehicle, but outside of a high school. To me, that's pretty brazen, to say the least.
Right. And think about like a middle school schedule more so than an elementary school schedule. Middle school and high school, you've got free periods as students. You're not moving around with the same class of kids. Everybody's got different schedules. It's easier to do that if you were somebody that was inclined to do that. And the really insidious nature of that is doing things in the classroom. You can go back to people like Deborah Lefebvre, who's another one of our famous Floridian teachers. She was diagnosed, and she was younger than this teacher. I think at the time she was in her 20s, but she was, I think, post-crime diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And that was something that, while does not excuse the crime, it does make a lot of sense because there's this risk-taking behavior that's associated with mania. And that's what I said. If I was representing her, first thing, you're going in for a psych eval. I mean, it's possible that you have a predator here. It's also possible that there's a lot of mental health that's teased in here, especially if she's saying, I'll leave my husband for you and blow up her entire life for this 13-year-old. It's shades of Mary Kay Letourneau as well, who had 4 children and a husband and left all of them.
Man,
yeah, I'm glad that you brought up Mary Kay Letourneau because there are significant parallels in the 2 cases. The fact that she allegedly fell in love with a student and then she went on to marry that student and have children with him. She says in this case, the 13-year-old, now 14-year-old student, she would leave her husband for. She's willing to go to jail for him, which is something Mary Kay Letourneau did, served her time, and then got with the student afterward and married him. I mean, do you think that's possible in this case?
As a former prosecutor on these cases, if she's willing to go to jail for him, that can be arranged. It sounds like they've got quite a bit of evidence here. There's text messages, evidence that you wouldn't have from like back in the 90s with Mary Kay Letourneau. They were actually caught in the act. But here you've got
Rampage Jackson's son finally got arrested. It only took a month.
These like text messages between them. You've got transcripts of conversations, and I'm assuming that she's home with her kids and texting him at the same time, and that's a secondary thrill that you can have when you're not with him. These messages are just going to be absolutely devastating for her. Frankly, I think that the state should their main goal should probably be to keep her in custody until he's at least 18.
I'm wondering about those text messages because to me, it's just crazy that she would text this information out because she knows that people can go back on your phones, look through your call log, look through your social media. Who were you talking to? So it's almost black and white right there for prosecutors to say, hey, on this date at this time, here's what you said. You guys met up. I mean, is that invaluable for their case?
Absolutely. Especially because, look, I haven't met this kid and hopefully his identity is kept private. But a lot of times when you've got these like preteens and teenagers in relationships with older people, they're convinced that they're in love and they've got very strong feelings of infatuation for this person. And sometimes they're not particularly cooperative, particularly at the beginning. As they start getting older, I've found in my, having prosecuted literally hundreds of these cases in the past, as time passes and the student or the victim gets a little bit older and then they're 17 and they're looking at 13-year-olds and they're going, oh God, that was me. And I've seen some really fast 180s on that after a couple of years have passed with victims. But a lot of times, like, they're not being particularly cooperative. Having their messages back and forth with at least there's something that you can put into evidence that indicates what occurred if they're refusing to testify.
Talking about testimony, it's interesting you brought that up because she did plead not guilty to these crimes. So if she does go to trial eventually, it's possible that prosecutors would reach out to the student and say, hey, will you go on the stand? What would all of that look like in the way of getting the information they need from him without re-victimizing him?
That's always the balancing test for a prosecutor. My state has Marcy's Law. It went into effect in early 2019. It means that you need to take the victim's wishes into consideration. But if the victim is under 18 and is still a child, there's kind of a balancing act that has to occur there because the kid might be saying, I don't want to testify. I'm in love. I want to marry her and run off with her into the sunset on a white horse. And the parents want her dead. I'm assuming it's almost like a mediation type of a process where you separate the child from the parents in the state's office and you try to talk through exactly. And then you go to your supervisors and you roundtable it with other prosecutors trying to decide, can you put this kid on the stand? What's going to happen if you do that? You maybe like role play with the kid in your office. You try to develop as much of a rapport as humanly possible as a prosecutor, trying to see what's going to happen here. I don't know what the exact contents of these messages are. If the defendant is stating, yes, I did go have sex with him, and then someone caught them in a room together with the lights off, and maybe you can sometimes cobble together the evidence that you need for a conviction without putting the victim on the stand.
And now we know we have this one victim, but prosecutors are saying there could be more. She could face additional charges because investigators say, hey, if you experienced this, talk to your children, come forward. Do you think that's possible in this case? I know you mentioned it earlier. She has a clean criminal record before all of this. Is it possible that she just didn't get caught before?
She didn't get caught. It wasn't reported. Something was reported, and it was, this is like boys telling stories out of school about their hot teacher or something like that, which, middle school boys are middle school boys. And it's something that maybe was not investigated to the extent it should have been. My question as a defense attorney, because it does seem like they've got some fairly good evidence that something did occur here and it was very wrong, is this a pattern, or what happened in her life at age 43 that, after being a teacher for, I'm assuming, about 20 years, that made her just drive the car off the cliff? And why this kid? And in a lot of cases, like, for example, with Mary Kay Letourneau, I actually read all the books about her because I was a sex crimes prosecutor and I was very interested in all of this. It turned out that she had a younger brother that drowned in a pool, and her family blamed her for the brother's death. Her father had some kind of a sex scandal as a politician and was a very like conservative right wing. So there were all kinds of like little micro traumas in her. I don't think that the death of her brother's a micro trauma, but there was all these like kind of things that were swirling around her as far as like, well, you know, and then you add in the mental health aspect of it. Because she ended up being diagnosed, I think, as bipolar.
They do not give men in these same situations none of these considerations that they're giving these bitches. It always is some mental health shit with them. But with niggas, they just are really relegated to saying they some perverts, they some pedos. They won't just call her a pedophile.
As well, prior to being sentenced to prison. So, you know, while it doesn't excuse it, maybe it explains why somebody might wake up in their late 30s, their early 40s, and suddenly do something that is just so out of character.
That will be interesting to see what the defense comes up with. And that kind of leads into my next question, because you pointed out that her team will likely look through her medical history, mental health history, but how will they still defend it? I mean, even if she had some sort of mental health issues that she was going through, she had to know that it was wrong ethically, but also illegal to have sex with a kid who's 13 or 14.
Right. I mean, it's such a high standard. I'm not talking about an insanity defense. Like, an insanity defense is you are so out of it that you don't even know what you're doing is wrong. I mean, she is a middle school teacher in a middle school classroom with a 13-year-old. I think it would be very difficult to make that argument from a defense perspective. What I'm talking about is mitigation and maybe some kind of an explanation for the behavior. I'm not saying that somebody can't just wake up one day and decide to go off the rails, but usually there's something that you can point to. When we're talking about relationships with children that are underage, most states have what's called a strict liability way of proving a case. But strict liability means that so long as it occurs and the state proves that you did it, it doesn't matter why, it doesn't matter about mistake. If it happened, you're guilty. So, and I could give you the example in the past of one of my colleagues had a case where an 18-year-old boy, or young man, I guess, was at a teen club. So it was up to like age 19 or pre-21-year-olds, and apparently had a relationship with an 11-year-old afterward and was informed that he had had sex with an 11-year-old, and he threw up immediately. And it's very difficult to feign that, but the problem is that, like, strict liability, you just committed a capital sexual battery in the state of Florida. So we all had to kind of roundtable, what's the appropriate punishment here? Does this person need to register as a sex offender if this girl is lying to him about her age? But it basically takes away, strict liability takes away the defense of, well, she said she was 18. It puts the onus on you as the adult to figure out how old this person is before you have any kind of physical relationship with them. And that was kind of the legislative intent, as I understand it, behind making these crimes strict liability offenses.
I think the bottom line in this case is there are some pretty concerning allegations here. But Kathleen, thank you for helping us understand a bit more about the case and the charges.
Happy to be here.
She didn't like what Kathleen had to say at all. She like, girl, you making excuses for this sick bitch. Get your fat ass off my screen. Babysitter, teacher, sexually abused boy she nannied for. I can't read the rest.
A fifth grade teacher already behind bars for an inappropriate relationship with a student now faces even more charges, including allegations that she wanted to have children with an underage boy who she babysat. This is Scandal, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sierra Gillespie. There's something going on at Rivercrest Elementary School in Hudson, Wisconsin. Multiple fifth grade teachers have been accused of inappropriate conduct with students, and now one of those teachers faces even more charges. Today's scandal takes us to northwestern Wisconsin, a small city right on the border of Minnesota. That state will come in later. Now, the city of Hudson, Wisconsin is where 25-year-old...
Man, you Smurf looking ass bitch, Peyton Manning looking ass bitch. Why she look like that? Man, she looked like a leprechaun in the face. Good grief. Big head ass bitch. All you like, you don't see
Abigail or Abby Faust.
I can't see the water or nothing. I just see head. I can't see past the head.
Worked at Rivercrest Elementary School as a fifth grade teacher, but she resigned in May of 2024 after some shocking allegations came to light. Here's where we have to introduce the other fifth grade teacher who's facing allegations, a woman by the name of Madison Bergman. Madison was arrested in May of 2024 on charges of first-degree sexual assault involving a student under age 13. Now, according to the allegations, Madison had a long-standing relationship with one of her 11-year-old students and even kissed the boy.
11? What in the dog fucking white women is going on here? They just keep getting younger and younger. They just will not call these bitches pedophiles. They refuse to say it.
On school property. All of this came to light in April 2024 when the boy's mom overheard her son on the phone at home talking to his teacher, Madison Bergman. Now,
why you didn't whoop Madison ass, ma'am?
The boy on school property. All of this came to light in April 2024 when the boy's mom overheard her son on the phone at home talking to his teacher, Madison Bergman. Now, the mom thought this was odd, so she discussed this with her son, saying, you know, a relationship with a teacher outside of school, it crosses the line. But then the 11-year-old boy's parents found some text messages that showed Madison Bergman, allegedly, crossed the line way before that phone call. Here's an example of some of the texts. Bergman wrote, quote, I love having my hand on your chest, to like, I always did, but today I could feel your heart beating so much, haha. The victim wrote back, haha, you put your hand on my chest, haha. When? Haha, and why it was beating so fast? Because I was so surprised because you never got away from me, and I loved it because you just kept kissing me. Bergman wrote back, when everyone was cleaning after reading, I was standing at the front and you were too, and I just put my hand on your chest. Later, the victim.
This is an 11-year-old she having this conversation with, keep in mind. Sick bitch.
Wrote, haha, bro, I just want to make out with you. Bergman said, I do too, like all the time. Also today, when you said, I know you're mad, but I want to kiss you.
And then this old bitch is typing like an 11-year-old.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to grab your face and just push you to the floor and make out with you. The victim says, haha, for real. I love to kiss you on the ground too. Haha. I almost kissed you when you were on the ground today, but I got distracted by your stomach. Other texts read from Madison, quote, victim, saying his name. Victim, this is so bad. Really bad. You're getting married. Those texts are in reference to Madison Bergman's engagement because, oh, I forgot to mention, this adult woman was set to be married just a few months after these texts with an 11-year-old boy were sent. Other texts show Madison and this boy corroborating that the kissing and inappropriate touching really did happen. The victim wrote, right now, we have already kissed 9 or 10 times in only a week and 2 days. Oh my goodness, haha, she replied. That's actually crazy. Haha, and it's going to be 20 by the end of today. More texts show that Madison knew what she was allegedly doing were wrong. The victim text, like texting me. Yeah, I already do plenty of that. I'm not trying to go to jail for real. But now that we've talked about it and I almost did it already, I'm sure it'll happen. I mean, I know it will. Now, after seeing these texts, the 11-year-old boy's parents were rightfully shocked and disturbed. The boy's father actually printed out these texts and reportedly brought them to the school demanding answers. Madison Bergman was later arrested and charged, and more charges were eventually added, including 5 counts of sexual misconduct by school staff.
Sir, you should have sent your wife up there to whoop that bitch ass and made bun. You had the $100 ready. I don't even think they would have charged her. They would have understood why that lady got her ass whooped.
2 counts of child enticement, 1 count of use of a computer to facilitate a child's sex crime, and 1 more count of exposing a child to harmful descriptions. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering, how does Abigail Abby Faust connect with all these Madison Bergman allegations? Well, according to court documents, Abby knew that her coworker and friend was acting inappropriately with this student. According to the New York Post, this information came to light during the Madison Bergman investigation because texts between Madison and this 11-year-old boy show those 2 discussing Abby Faust, saying Abby knew about their quote-unquote relationship. Because of this, Abby resigned in May of 2024 and was later charged with failure to protect a child, causing mental harm to a child, child enticement, and sexual misconduct by school staff or volunteers. But that's not where the allegations end against Abby. Not only did she allegedly know about the Madison Bergman inappropriate conduct, but she too allegedly participated in inappropriate conduct, according to prosecutors. While officials were at the school to investigate Madison Bergman, a teacher's aide told officers about Abby being, quote, very close.
I'm so glad it ain't no sisters involved in these reports. I'm so glad.
it's an overwhelming majority of white women doing this shit.
To a 10-year-old boy student, according to the Minnesota Star.
No Asians, no Hispanics, just an overwhelming majority of white women. And all these bitches got fiancés and husbands and shit. They not single old bitches. They young and got fiancés and husbands and shit. And they go, this is weird.
Tribune, this staff member allegedly saw Abby and this 10-year-old boy giggling and flirting. Abby,
why do they keep putting this leprechaun on the screen?
Allegedly gave this boy extra attention over the other students, favored him, and even held hands with him at school. Now, investigators had to talk about this. They sat down with the 10-year-old boy, and he denied the allegations. According to the Star Tribune, the boy said he didn't kiss Abby and that Abby did not hold him back in the classroom alone. However, the boy did admit that they held hands, but later took that admission back. So that conversation happened in May of 2024. But several months later, in November of 2024, the boy confided in a school counselor. This counselor later reported the information to police that Abby allegedly pushed this 10-year-old boy up against a wall after class, kissed him on the lips, and then forced him to hug her.
The other lady, 11-year-old, this lady with a 10-year-old. One before that, 13-year-old.
The Star Tribune, the boy later told police it was a kiss on the cheek. Now, this investigation continued, and in 2025, the boy's parents gave police more information. It was a Christmas card from Abby that was written to this boy. She signed it, "Love Miss Faust," and drew a heart next to her name. Now, the initial charges that I spoke about against Abby Faust came down in August in St. Croix County in Wisconsin. But now there are even more charges, this time just across the border in Minnesota. These charges came down just last week, but they stem from allegations dating back to 2024. So let me explain. According to court documents, Abby began nannying for a family in Minnesota back in 2021. A few years later, in December 2024, Abby allegedly crossed the line with a family's son, who at the time was only 15 years old. Abby allegedly sent this boy sexually explicit messages using Snapchat. She also allegedly sent him pictures of herself wearing lingerie. Now, according to reports, she sent messages acknowledging this inappropriate conduct, saying she knew it was illegal. But that's not where the relationship ended. Abby allegedly performed oral sex on this teenage boy, and they also had sex on other occasions after that, including, allegedly, when the family went on a trip to the Bahamas and Abby came along. Abby reportedly also told the boy that they had true love, and she shared her wishes about having a child with this boy in the future. But that's still not where everything ended. In April, that first boy went on vacation with his family to Florida. And it was then that Abby allegedly began talking to one of his juvenile friends, and they too had a sexual relationship. Jump to August now, when Abby was charged with the crime.
And they still won't call her a pedophile.
Out of her elementary school in Wisconsin.
She has
the parents of both Minnesota boys exchanged information about Abby and the allegations that happened there. And after that, investigators were contacted, and Abby was charged with these separate crimes out of Minnesota. This is definitely a messy case, and I got a lot of questions about it. So let's bring on today's guest to break it all down. We're joined now by former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Jack Rice. Thanks for coming on, Jack. And I guess I got to ask you, what's going on in Hudson, Wisconsin? I mean, two teachers, the same school. I mean, make sense of it.
It's not funny,
yeah,
Jack.
I wish I could, right? I truly do, because anytime we see certain things happen, it really raises a red flag. When you see it twice, it's even more so. But let's be more specific than that. What we're talking about here is about sexual assault. And we have to think of it very specifically like that. And that, for some people, is unusual in itself. So we have the concept of a teacher on a student. But my guess, the lion's share of people out there, if they make that presumption of what that means, is it's a male teacher on a female student, right? Now let's imagine if we had two male teachers on two female students in a particular school, an elementary school. People would be up in arms. People would lose their minds and go, what is this? Is there something in the water? Is there something about the morality?
This nigga here dressed like a deacon.
Of that community, or are these people just nuts? Now let's take
used car salesman looking there, boy.
Take it one step further. Both of those teachers are female, and they're against young boys. Now you wrap that around each other, and my response is, I have no idea.
And I do want to specify that you're right. A lot of people always think, it's the female students who are the victims in this too. But shockingly, most of the cases that I cover on Law and Crime, they're female teachers who are the predators. And in this case, it's allegations. But they're the alleged predators. And we have victims who are boys. So I want to make note that boys can be victims too. And in this case, we have multiple. And I guess that leads into my next question. There's such an abuse of power here. How does it go from someone who's supposed to be your teacher, teaching you whatever you may be learning in the 5th grade classroom setting? How does it go from that into crossing the threshold of something so inappropriate like the allegations we've seen here?
Well, that's what makes this particularly horrifying. I mean, let's be honest. Anytime you have that situation where it's any adult on any child, that in itself can be horrifying. But when you combine that with that position of authority, that position of power, it makes it far, far worse, because now all of a sudden you might actually have a child who feels compelled. They have no choice. This is their teacher, for gosh sake. We think about positions of authority. Now, you can imagine it like this. You talk about teachers, talk about police officers, you can talk about lawyers, you can talk about priests, you can talk about anybody is in that position of authority over somebody else. And they've really stretched that out, by the way. So what you'll find in some jurisdictions, including my own right now, is that somebody who is a babysitter, that's enough. Even if they're a babysitter one time, that is enough. If you have a teacher, not even your teacher, just a teacher, the idea that you're in that position of authority means you might tell a child something and they may feel compelled to do it because you're the person in charge. That's what makes this more heinous, more difficult, more frustrating. And from a law enforcement standpoint, it makes it even harder because there is still that perception amongst some people out there that this isn't as serious. In fact, I have absolutely heard from people saying, this is a crime? This is a problem? It's like, oh, line me up. I swear I have heard it.
I hate that people talk like that too, because you have to think about it. So many people go back and they think, oh my God, if I was that young boy, great, cool, a young teacher. That's what some people say in the comments or just colloquially. But these are victims too. It's such an imbalance of power. And it's interesting that you brought up babysitter, because one of the teachers we're talking about today, Abby Faust or Abigail, she was a teacher who has allegations there that there was misconduct involving a student, but there's further allegations, really the reason we're doing the story today. She has new charges that she was nannying or babysitting this young boy starting in 2021. And then eventually, once he reached a certain age, it progressed into an alleged sexually charged relationship, quote unquote, I'll say. And I guess, what do you think about that? The fact that she already had a set of allegations against her, and now we have some new allegations coming to light.
Well, let's look at where we are on this. And you go back and look at what it was that she was allegedly doing in Wisconsin in the first place. And now we're crossing over into my jurisdiction of Washington County in Minnesota. So I'm not just going to blame you being a Wisconsin person yourself, apparently being in Minnesota.
We're both involved here.
Yeah, we're not. Well, hey, hold on. Let's be careful how we say that.
Our states are both involved.
Yeah, that's right. Our states are somehow involved. It's not surprising to me, because frequently what we see is that there is a grooming process, that this is something that takes place over time. And so what you see is this very slow, deliberate piece that puts somebody in that position where they can start making demands. And by the way, if I might just refer back to something you said before you asked this last question, I think one of the particularly difficult aspects of this is that when you have people lining up saying, me next, right? The real problem in my head is this, and I'm saying this as a former prosecutor, as a former U.S. federal agent, as a defense attorney, but I'm in the system. This is what I do, and I'm in court every day handling big cases. Some of them are just like this, is that you have to contemplate what it is when society says something like that to a boy who is a victim, who now feels diminished even more, minimized even more, pushed into the fringe, and now starts to actually feel guilty, potentially, because they're a victim and they feel like one. Contemplate what that means when society is telling you, what are you talking about? Here's your badge. We're so proud of you. And you're like, wait a second, I'm being ripped to pieces from the inside out. And I think it's critically important to remember, we're talking about children, and it isn't a gender question. It doesn't have to be men on girls. It can be men on boys. It can be women on girls. All of those don't change the dynamic and what this can do, because in the end, truly, and I'm going to try to get on a soapbox here, but this is a theft. In the end, it's actually a theft of what this does, because these people carry this when they're your age, when they're my age. It's still back there. And that's really important to remember.
it's almost robbing a piece of innocence too. And maybe even what would happen in their future relationships, because this is probably one of the first, I keep saying relationship, but I do want to be clear that it isn't consensual because these children, their children are under age 18. So I guess it's just easier to say relationship, but that's not what it is. And then as they grow up and they do want to start dating, in college, get married, whatever they want to do with their lives. This is, we talk about our first loves that we all go back to in our head, thinking about the early relationships, the foundation. I do wonder for these young men who are going to grow up and think about this, the imbalance of power, how they were taken advantage of. And I guess this is a question for you as a former prosecutor, because a lot of what is at stake here that prosecutors need is the text messages, which we'll talk about, but maybe even the testimony from these young boys. And one of them was 11 at the time. I mean, is that even middle school at this point? That's so young. And if they were to have to go on the stand and testify against this alleged predator, I mean, is that really difficult for them to have to do?
Extraordinary. And I can tell you, I have had cases myself over the years. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. And I've had cases myself where there were what, as a defense attorney, we would call a complaining witness, but it's the alleged victim who were 5, 6, 7 years old. And what you end up seeing in a case like this is you have to determine competency first. Do they even understand what is right and what is wrong? Do they even understand what's true or what's imagined? Can they actually take the stand and say, this thing happened to me and that person sitting over there in the red tie is the one who did it? And so it becomes even more complicated when you realize that piece. Now, that doesn't change when you're 10 or 11 years old, because in some ways it can be worse, because you might even be more conscious of what's around you, of the stress of what it means. And I mean, that's one aspect of these kinds of cases that I think is missed regularly. And I can say this regularly, is that sometimes you'll see people say, oh, well, prosecute these people to the fullest extent of the law. And I understand and even appreciate the idea of it. But here is a reality of what that means. That means you're also forcing a victim or an alleged victim, until there's a conviction, back on the stand to essentially have to relive it. The trauma is not just the first time. The trauma is the second time or the third time. And then the cross-examination that comes with that too. And you can easily say, oh, let's just do that. And my response is, who are you protecting now? And what is the cost of a prosecution? And I'm not saying societally, I'm talking about this. If I were a father of this child and say, do I put my kid back through this? Do I do that? And you're like, it's good for society and for other people. And my response, to hell with other people. I care about my kid. My kid's the one that's torn to pieces. My kid's the one that has the potential of going through this again. And what does that do to them in the future? And I think that is one of the realities that we see in the system, that usually, when you watch Law and Crime, you will see the back end of this. You're not seeing the front end and what this does to families, and how families have to figure out, how do we handle this case? Do we cooperate? Do we actually work with the police? Or do we say, you know what? Sorry, not this one. And that happens too. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's simple. I'm not even saying what's right. I'm saying that's one of the realities that we deal with every day when we're working on these kinds of cases.
I can't even imagine now, I'm 32, going on the stand and having to confront an alleged abuser, the cross exam, doing it in real life in front of that person. I'm an adult woman and can't imagine doing it. And yet to do it as a child, where this person was your teacher and you're a kid, everything you just said is so valid there. And I guess I have to wonder if maybe it's possible to skip over the testimony and focus on things that are incriminating, like the text messages. Is that something prosecutors could do? Because
she got a great podcast
it's interesting
voice.
To have some alleged photos, messages that seem pretty incriminating. I guess this is a two-part question. Number one, why would these defendants write down these things in black and white or take photos? That is very incriminating, because as we know, nothing is really ever gone after it's sent, number one. And number two, is it possible that prosecutors could just run with that rather than having to put any of these young men on the stand?
Boy, again, that was more than a two-part question. Objection. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's an amazing thing what people do, and that they don't think through these in the way that they should. Because frequently what we've seen is that, and this is going to sound odd, and it's been my experience after handling so many of these cases, many people, and even Abigail in this case, according to what the reports say to the police, she saw this as a relationship.
Right.
I mean, think about what that means, where any of us who have relationships, let's pull out of this assault piece for a second and realize the things that we say to our significant other, or somebody we want to be our significant other, or the fact that you start having a relationship, and if that relationship becomes sexual, now we're talking about texts and emails and photos and video or whatever else people are doing. You have to bring that concept into this other space, and that frequently happens. And that can be one of the most damning pieces of evidence. As a former prosecutor, there is nothing more powerful than having the words of the person themselves who is the defendant. Nothing is more powerful than them saying something, them doing something, because you put that in front of a jury and it can be extraordinary. And you've got to remember, with the photo piece, now we're adding an additional charge, which is child pornography. By the way, there is a weird aspect to this kind of a case that frequently is missed, and this is actually unique to not every state, but here in Minnesota. Believe it or not, the age of consent here is 16. It's not 18. So while that may not apply in this case, it can apply in cases that you don't think about. Because what can happen is you could be a 32-year-old person and you could legally have sex with a 16-year-old. I just follow through with me. But what I know, it's crazy. This is the law. But the difference is, and this is how it usually plays out, is that what happens is that it does not apply if you are in a position of authority. It's a very old law. It's a law, for whatever reason, that is still in place. I scratch my head on it sometimes.
Yeah.
But what can happen is if you have a 16-year-old, like let's say a high school junior, right? High school sophomore, and you have a teacher, you're in a position of authority. That's what knocks it into the illegal area, because you can't be in that space. And believe it or not, even if you're 18, there can be a crime committed because of that position of authority piece, if they're still in school. And so there's aspects of that, and you're sort of have some power over them. That's the difference. And so that's one of the twists that we're seeing. And remember, this is a Minnesota case. She's actually charged what's called third-degree criminal sexual conduct here. She could be looking at years and years and years in prison for that. According to the sentencing guidelines, it's a presumptive 48 months to serve. What is interesting is that if you think back to what you and I discussed early on, which was about men on girls versus women on boys, and the perception of what that means, we've seen this happen across the states sometimes, where women are actually sentenced less harshly than men are. Now,
all the goddamn time.
Should there be? Well, I think from a gender standpoint, which we've decided, it shouldn't. And yet what happens sometimes is there's a perception, and it rolls out of courts too.
About mental
Judges
health and
sometimes
all
will look at this and say,
bullshit.
well, was this really as bad as? Now, it's crazy, but you know what I'm talking about. And frankly, you've covered these. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I mean, that is something that we have seen comparatively when we're talking about the sentences. And it's so interesting. I mean, this entire interview, we've just been talking about the differences in the men and women offenders in all of this. And regardless, we have victims that we need to remember. And I guess that I'll be interested to see what's going to happen, whether these cases do go to trial, whether it's Wisconsin, Minnesota, both the defendants, who's to say there's a plea deal. There's a lot ahead in this case. I guess I'll just end by saying, Jack Rice, thank you for bringing up some amazing points about this case that hopefully our viewers will be pondering for, days to come.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Right now, Abigail Faust is still being held in St. Croix County, Wisconsin, awaiting extradition to Minnesota for her second set of charges. We'll keep following both her and Madison Bergman's cases to see what's ahead.
Hey, man. This shit gets
This
crazy.
wife and mom was accused of trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband, but it wasn't some covert contract killer like you see in the movies the prosecutors say she solicited. They said it was a juvenile that she wanted to get.
Shut up, motherfucker. Okay, this one says teacher sent teen news, then asked him to kill her husband. Son of a bitch. Law and crime is on the case.
This wife and mom was accused of trying.
You guessed it. She's white.
To hire a hitman to kill her husband, but it wasn't some covert contract killer like you see in the movies that
white people crimes be totally different.
Prosecutors say she solicited. They said it was a juvenile that she wanted to get her out of her marriage by taking out her husband, a juvenile inmate who she was teaching English to behind bars. Now, if that wasn't shocking enough, it goes.
What?
To a whole new level, because on top of that, she also sent this boy explicit pictures of herself and had sexual contact with him. And the jury in her case just reached a shocking verdict. We got a lot to unpack on this one. We're on the case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Look, there are a lot of ways for people to get out of a marriage. None of them are easy, but you have divorce, some sort of amicable separation. But we have seen in so many true crime stories, someone thinking that their way out could be hiring someone to kill their significant other. Prosecutors in tiny Adair County, Kentucky argued that was the approach that 27-year-old Elena Barden took earlier this year. Now, Elena was a teacher in the public school system, and she was assigned to help young people who were spending time at a local juvenile detention facility, people who were facing charges. It's admirable work. And it also appears that she was a very admirable person outside of work. She was a loving wife, it appeared. She posted videos on TikTok of date night with her husband, and she was also a mom. And she made sure that people knew just how much she loved her daughter. You can see in this post that she says, "My girl." It was posted on March 27th of this year. It was that month of this year. An investigation began, though, into Elena Barden that would shatter that admirable image that she had both at work and at home. Investigators said that they were doing a routine search of the detention center, just looking for contraband, things like that, of the young people who were spending time behind bars. And during that routine search, they found on one of the juveniles what they called explicit materials. Some of those explicit materials were of Elena Barden. This boy that they found the explicit materials on was the boy that she was teaching behind bars as an English teacher. Further investigation found that, quote, Barden had subjected the juvenile to illegal sexual contact and provided him with sexually explicit images of herself. But not only did Kentucky State Police accuse Barden of having sexual contact with this boy and sending him explicit pictures of herself, they also said that Barden, quote, solicited a male juvenile at the Adair Juvenile Detention Center to kill her husband. Now that is surprising when you just take a glance at her social media, Facebook, TikTok. It seems like she's in a great marriage, but we always know that social media is only part of the story. The last social media post that Barden made was on March 28th of her and her daughter. Now March 28th is important because that was a day after police found those explicit images inside the facility. It is unclear whether she knew what the staff had found related to her at the time she posted this image. But 4 days later, she certainly found out because on April 2nd, Kentucky State Police put her under arrest. Barden was arrested. She was charged with solicitation of murder, sexual abuse in the first degree, and distribution of obscene matter to a minor. Her trial just happened this month. And you think about the timeline, I mean, pretty quick compared to some of the other pretty serious trials that we follow here at Law and Crime. All of this developing in March and April, and here she is with a 2-day trial in September 2025. And at that trial, prosecutors said that Barden had told the boy that she was teaching that she wanted to kill her husband, or maybe the boy could get one of his friends in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky to do it. This is according to the paper, the Lexington Herald Leader. Now, the motive, they argue, was that Barden wanted out of this marriage, but she didn't want to split her assets with her husband in a divorce, and she did not want to share custody of their 5-year-old daughter. The newspaper writes that the juvenile was in jail on a murder charge. And Barden, we actually have reportedly some of the things she specifically said to him that was found in letters and a diary that investigators got during their investigation. One of the things that she wrote this boy in a letter reportedly said, quote, I know you say you'll take care of him, but shouldn't someone else do it to take the suspicion away from you? Barden also wrote in a diary that the boy would, quote, make comments verbally and in writing about, quote, getting rid of my husband. I would ask him what he meant. He was always very adamant that if he never did anything criminal again, he would do it alone. The Times Leader writes that Barden's defense attorney, though, looked at all of this and said any sort of solicitation of murder that was going on, all of that was a joke between a teacher and a student. Maybe it crossed a line ethically, but in terms of her trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband, the defense said absolutely not. The letters they said about killing Barden's husband, that they were never actually taken seriously. The newspaper did say that the juvenile testified and told jurors that he thought Barden was serious about killing her husband, but he never actually planned to do anything about it. I mean, it is important to note he's facing a murder charge. He's behind bars. It's unclear if
he was in jail. He couldn't have did shit because he was in jail.
Appears to have attacked the credibility of this juvenile witness on the stand. And he tried to make the argument to jurors that this boy was grooming his teacher as much as she was reportedly grooming him. Tough argument to make, but we do see in cases like this that defense attorneys have to take those kind of stands in hopes of appealing to jurors. Now, when it came to the sexual part of this relationship, prosecutors presented explicit pictures that Barden sent this boy. In fact, they say she went to Walmart to develop them. They also have security camera footage showing her going into the boy's cell, even though that is not allowed per the detention facility's rules. Detectives also read nearly 140 pages of letters that Barden sent this boy, many reportedly including explicit language and sexual fantasies of this teacher, but also explained real life sexual contact with the boy, and the boy reportedly confirmed all of that happened on the stand. Now, this trial lasted 2 days, and the jury came back with a shocking verdict. Barden, this mom, this wife, this English teacher, she was found guilty on one count of first-degree sexual abuse and a count of unlawful transaction with a minor and distribution of obscene material to a minor. But this is where things get shocking, because when you think about the explicit pictures, if they have that, it is incredibly clear what she actually did with this juvenile. But when it came to the count of trying to get a boy in a juvenile facility to kill her husband, jurors found her not guilty, perhaps buying that argument that part of her communication with this boy was a joke. Maybe the boy saying he never really thought about actually doing it or would have been able to kill her husband. Maybe that had an impact on jurors. Before we get back to this episode of On the Case, I want to talk about an important sponsor. It tastes like fun. And you can as well. Go to a household staple for you and your family. And Equip is giving my audience an incredible offer right now. On the Case, huge thank you to Equip for making the best bar on. She's still expected to do some pretty serious time in prison, or at least that's what prosecutors want. I'll tell you how much she could get in just a moment. But if she did actually want to get her marriage to end, the Times leader writes that her husband filed for divorce in May of this year, and he also filed for sole custody of their daughter. As for the prison sentence, prosecutors are asking for a sentence of up to 14 years in prison. So this former teacher, now former wife, soon to be inmate, is slated for sentencing in November. All right, joining us now to talk a little bit more about this is criminal defense attorney John Day. Thank you as always for taking the time to be with us here on Law and Crime. So they have the messages that she allegedly sent saying that she wanted this juvenile to kill her husband, but she's found not guilty. What do you make of that?
Thanks for having me, Chris. This is an unusual one because the prosecution would not have brought this case unless they had a good faith belief that they had more than enough to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that she was trying to hire someone, in this case, this minor, to kill her husband. So what we see is that the jury was very thoughtful. They deliberated on this and were able to toss out some of the charges based on the testimony they heard. She still was convicted of felonies, but the main case against her brought by these prosecutors failed.
And it seems like from what I've read that the defense's approach to the messages about allegedly wanting to get this minor who's behind bars in this juvenile detention facility to get him or one of his friends to go and take out her husband to get out of this marriage. And the defense seemed to be, she was never actually serious about that. How effective is that argument, the I was just kidding argument, in cases like this, where you might have a piece of evidence like a note or something like that saying where someone actually wanted to do it?
Right. Well, I mean, in this case, it was effective, and the defense team was able to convince the jury that they shouldn't take it seriously. And of course, that's a blow to the prosecution. But again, remember, they were able to determine that in their eyes, she was guilty of, crimes of dishonesty, crimes that involve things like sending the material to the minor's involvement with the minor. So the jury was able to at least make some kind of distinction there. But the idea at the end of the day that the defense can say, look, don't take this seriously. She's just sort of, this is a humorous exchange between the defendant working at the facility and then these juvenile inmates, the juvenile people, the kids in detention. I mean, that must have been very effective in the eyes of the jury, because even though they were able to convict her, they still had doubt. They still had a belief that what the defense was saying was accurate. And remember, she did not testify, and they apparently didn't call any other witnesses. So this was solely based on picking apart the prosecution's case.
Because to your point here's someone who, there's evidence that she had crossed every sort of ethical line and legal line when it came to having sexual contact with a minor. She's sending these notes. There was like 140 pages. And I did note in the newspaper that I guess even the detective was blushing when he was reading these messages that she was sending the boy because they were that explicit. It appears that they had some sort of motive, they believe, that she wanted out of her marriage, but not to split the assets, not have to share custody of their daughter. So it seemed like in a lot of cases that this is typically where it gets a guilty verdict. In cases like this, though, where you see kind of the split decision, what type of jury typically goes in? Like, what does that say about this group of people that they saw that? And how common is it to actually see a jury be able to kind of distinguish what she's charged from here and what she's actually guilty of here?
Yeah, it's an interesting point, Chris. And I'm thinking back to the maybe 1,000 jury trials that I've done in my career. And every single time, what I notice, and it's always the same, a jury is they take their job seriously. Okay, you may not like the outcome, whether you're a prosecutor or defense attorney, but the jurors are, this is their job. They're brought together, these are 12 people or 6 people or however many it is who don't know each other, and they're brought together and they're given this task, they're given this assignment to sit there and listen to this evidence. A lot of times it's incredibly disturbing. And so you've got situations where people who are strangers to each other sit in a little room, they're watching video, they're hearing disturbing testimony, they're looking over at a defendant sitting at the defense table. At the end of the day, they take their job seriously. And a lot of times I've disagreed with their verdicts, but I've never thought that the jurors in my cases didn't take their job seriously. In this case, in this Kentucky case, what we see is a jury that did take their job seriously. They sat down there and they were able to pick apart the case that the prosecution threw at them and said, okay, we believe parts of this, we don't believe other parts of this. And even though the facts here are incredibly disturbing, involving allegations of involvement with a minor at the juvenile detention facility, they were able to say to the prosecutors, basically, you didn't have it, you didn't prove it to us, and we took our job seriously, and we looked at the evidence and we were able to acquit her of some serious charges.
So the timeline for this, from investigation to a verdict, seemed very quick because it was in March of this year, end of March, that they discovered these explicit materials. Then 4 days later, it's April 2025, she's arrested. And then here we are, it's a 2-day trial in September to determine whether or not she's guilty. What do you, that feels quick. What do you make of that timeline?
Yeah, it's quick. I mean, jurisdictions differ in terms of what their caseloads look like, but this does particularly seem like a quick track for the prosecution's case. And then, of course, the jury didn't take them too long to come back. I mean, they had some idea going into it what they wanted to do, obviously listening to the evidence. But it was probably my guess, from having had these types of cases before in situations with juries, they probably went into deliberations having some skepticism, at least, about the prosecution's case, because they were able to pick that apart and say, we're going to acquit her of these charges. So as the evidence is being presented, as the case is unfolding, they're being skeptical.
And this trial lasted just 2 days, which I think for some of the high-profile stories that we're often talking about, these are trials that go on for a long time. Brian Kohberger would have been 3 months. Sean Diddy Combs, that was determined to be a pretty long trial as well, far more than just 2 days. Very different situations, and I get that. But what goes into determining how long a trial is actually going to go? And in this case, just 2 days.
Right. Well, both sides make an estimate for the judge. Prosecution looks at how many witnesses they have, what the type of testimony is. Is there a lot of video? Is there a lot of photographs? And this, is there a lot of, in cases involving things like homicide, of course, you're going to have lots of autopsy reports and photographs. And this particular case was probably streamlined, it seems like, because it was, from the prosecution standpoint, it was relatively straightforward. Not a lot of expert testimony, for example. That takes up a lot of time when both sides have battling expert witnesses who are testifying. The prosecution put together what they must have thought was a streamlined case, but given the verdict, you wonder, did they shortchange their office? Did they really have it together? Because when you go up and you lose on counts like this, when it's the most serious charges, you've got to go back and wonder, what did we do wrong?
What is on the prosecution side, and even for the defense in your work too, when it comes to determining, okay, here's the evidence we have, and this is what we need to get? Because maybe in hindsight, they're looking and saying, was there a witness that we could have brought? I know that they had the juvenile himself on the stand, and I'm sure they felt really good about him as a witness. The text message, or not the text messages, the letters, they had a diary from her as well, surveillance video of her going in. And that certainly made a strong case on the sexual counts that she was facing. But what is the strategy typically when it comes to making sure that you're telling a story that is one that can keep jurors engaged and not boring them, but also not shortchanging them of important facts?
Right. Well, you kind of hit on the key factor. I mean, if you're a trial lawyer doing criminal law, whether you're on the prosecution side or the defense side, you've got to be a storyteller. I mean, the best lawyers I've ever seen in court are also the best storytellers. And they're the ones who have been able to, whether it comes naturally or whether it's something you've worked on for years, you're able to put together a narrative in a way that a jury can follow it, can understand it, and can believe it. And at the end of the day, they can accept your version of events. So if you are, we see this a lot in younger prosecutors, defense lawyers. They don't have maybe storytelling skills that they will develop down the road in their career. But that kind of stuff, jurors are used to things like watching lawyer shows on television and in the movies, and they see these streamlined presentations that are, polished and eloquent, and they go in there expecting that. They expect that. Sorry, I have a dog here, Chris. Apologize. So the jurors go in there and they expect a streamlined presentation. They expect that the lawyers are going to be like the guys they see and the women they see on TV. The problem is it takes a while to get to that level, even if you're not on TV.
Yeah, because I'm sure even in cases, I even think back to Casey Anthony, like Jose Baez, like a showman, someone who was just very good at telling her story, and then you saw the verdict go in their direction. You think that that's the expectation, even in a rural county, that someone might have, like Adair County, where all of this took place. I know prosecutors are asking for 14 years for her sentence on these 2 other counts that she was found guilty of. And even though solicitation for murder, not guilty, the idea that she had sexual contact with this boy and was, passing along explicit messages, very, very serious charges. What typically goes into a judge's decision in a case like this about whether or not she could get and I know every jurisdiction is a little different, but generally speaking, what a judge will look at to determine what that sentence will actually be?
Right. Well, remember, the judge has sat through the trial. The judge has been able to evaluate the defendant's honesty and character in that little window of a trial, even if it's a 2-day trial where they're watching them. Even though the defendant doesn't testify, the judge has the evidence that the prosecution presented, and the judge has been able to watch the demeanor of the defendant at the defense table. That's one thing that I think a lot of times is overlooked. When you're in court at a trial, it's like you're putting on a play. If you're the defense lawyer and you have to tell your client, everybody's watching you throughout the entire thing. So even on a break, even when nothing's happening, eyes are on you. So, but the judge is going to consider criminal history. The judge is going to consider the nature of the offense, the person's own history. In this case, because she was in a position of authority, I think a judge is going to be much more severe in sentencing than if it was a different situation. Because when you're given that authority, for example, in her position teaching, a judge is going to say you abuse that, and so there's a penalty that's going to be stronger than what otherwise I would be giving.
Even though she was found not guilty on the solicitation for murder charge, I mean, there was evidence that she made comments that she wanted her husband dead, even though the defense said it was a joke. You had the juvenile on the stand saying that he at least thought she was serious. Reportedly, he said that, even though he felt like he was never going to go through with it and never actually gave it serious thought. Could that, even though she was found guilty, factor into a judge's decision about, well, she still said some pretty disturbing things, at least, about her husband to a witness that testified at this trial?
Yes, absolutely. The statements of the witnesses are going to be sitting in the judge's mind as the judge is making the sentencing determination. Judges are surprised sometimes by a jury's verdict, and in their minds they can sort of adjust the punishment to fit what they think really happened. Judges accept the jury's verdict, obviously, but at the same time they've sat through the evidence, they've heard the testimony, and I've had cases where judges are frustrated that the prosecution couldn't close the deal and convince a jury, and so there might be some effort by a judge to say, look, I know how serious this is, and even though you weren't convicted of this, I know what I heard. And so you do see that from time to time. Obviously, a judge is going to want to apply what they saw during that trial. Even if it's 2 days, they heard plenty of evidence. So again, I think it's going to come back to the person's history, their position in the community, their position of authority. And is this an aberration, or is this something that this person has had a history of behavior that's not appropriate? In this case, we don't know that. But at the same time, the fact that she was in a facility in a position of authority is going to obviously have an effect.
And I wasn't obviously in the courtroom for when the verdict was read, but I'm sure for that top charge, there was a moment of relief for the defendant that she wasn't guilty of that most serious charge. But then the wave comes for, you're still convicted of these 2 other charges, and you could spend some serious time, 14 years maybe. That's a good chunk of your life in prison. I mean, what are the emotions like on the defense's side? Where I'm sure as that lawyer, you're thrilled that it seems like some pretty good lawyering that went on during the trial. But at the same time, your client's still going away for a while. I mean, what's the emotion and the dynamic after that happens, the conversation with the defendant? Like, take us inside the room for that.
Right. Well, as a defense lawyer, you try your best to prepare your client for the worst case scenario. I mean, you say, look, the trial's over. You have some time with them after the jury goes to deliberate. You're waiting on the verdict, and you go through all the scenarios with your client. I mean, you've done this beforehand, but it really hits home when you're waiting on a verdict. You tell them, here's the possibility. Here's what looked good for us. Here's what didn't look good for us. Be prepared for the worst case scenario. And the best lawyers are able to prepare their clients for that eventuality. I mean, you look back at the O.J. Simpson trial, and you know that his lawyers told him, there's a real serious chance that you're going to be convicted here. And so when the verdict comes back and it's less than what the prosecution wanted, it's not, in this case, it wasn't a full acquittal, but the defense has got to be pleased with being able to get an acquittal on the most serious charge. And the client, the defendant, of course, is going to be relieved. They're still facing time, but it's not nearly as much as they would have been. So there's a sense of relief, even though it's very likely that they're going to do some prison time.
And then just lastly, that the prosecution and what they may present asking for 14 years, when she's sentenced in November, what can the defense do to try and limit the damage and the amount of time that she'll spend in prison?
The defense from now until the sentencing date is going to be focused on mitigating her sentence, providing information to the judge about who she is, what's her background, what led her to this place, what is there that that the judge ought to consider in showing some leniency. I mean, you put together a whole book on your client. You get family history, you get social history, medical history, work history. You talk to friends, you talk to neighbors. I mean, to do a really good job on a sentencing like this, you've got to have essentially a book about your client, about the defendant, to give to the judge to say, look, this is who she is. This is how she got here. She made a mistake. She hasn't made any mistakes like this previously, if that's the case. You basically are building a story about your client, about the defendant, that has to be based on facts, obviously, but you want the judge to look at it and say, here are a lot of reasons not to max her out. Here are a lot of reasons not to give her the maximum sentence.
And we'll see how it all plays out. I know she's going to be sentenced in November. Shocking verdict to see that not guilty come across, but of course she'll likely spend a good amount of time in prison. John Day, criminal defense attorney, thanks for breaking this down for us. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime.
Good to see you. Thank you, Chris.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.
I think we got interrogate or body cam footage on this next one. It's a male teacher.
This wasn't a love story. It was a crime. A teacher, a student, and one suspicious ex who exposed it all. February 6, 2024, officers respond to a case that shocked an entire school. A teacher entrusted with guiding students instead found herself in the middle of an inappropriate relationship. The secret might have remained hidden if not for her ex-boyfriend. His suspicions led him to her emails, where he discovered the shocking truth that forced law enforcement to intervene.
Oh, this nigga feelings got hurt and he snitched. He told everything. Good job, white man. I thought he was the criminal. The way he was sitting in the back of the car and shit, he telling.
And I was able to provide them the location. It's a location. He's got it on his phone. I think he shared her location with him. What's your name? Damien. Let's move down closer to my car. If you want to move your car down over there. She's trying to call me. She's trying to call you right now? Take the call? Yeah. Let's move down a little closer, okay? So we're over here on the way. Thank you for calling us. Thank you for giving us the information you gave us. You say you're under investigation. Is the school investigating you? Or do you have like a criminal case open right now? I don't know if there's a case open yet. The school is investigating. So you want to leave from them? I was suspended today. You were suspended today. May I ask you a question? If I get in trouble, is there any way for me to protect my family from repercussions? Why do you think you get in trouble? I believe I would get in trouble. Do me a favor, come stand over to my car, please. You don't have any weapons, anything on you, right? Anything that's going to stick me or poke me? All right, because I'm going to have you sit down in the back of my car. I'm just making sure that you don't have any weapons, okay? Wallet, that's all you got? I believe you. I just got to make sure there's nothing on there. Do me a favor, just sit down in the car for a little bit. I'll give you some more information, talk to you in a minute, okay? I don't know what I got right now, but that's where we're at, okay? No, I just don't want to
Cash App, hit the PayPal, hit the Super Chat, join the membership, buy an album, donate to the laptop fund.
So now my red flags start going on.
Yeah,
and that's why I have
$300
more
gold.
reasonable suspicion. I'm going to put him in the back of the
Got
car.
$60.
We're gonna have a couple more questions for you in a minute, okay? We just need to kind of get to the bottom of a few things, okay? That's it, all right? Not in trouble as of this minute, but we got to find out what's going on, all right?
Hi, how you doing? I'm Deputy
Okay,
Diaz.
I
I'm with
think
the
I'm
Sheriff's
playing.
Office. I just
The
wanted to confirm
laptop
a few
that
things.
I'm trying to
Obviously,
get is
with situations
conveniently
like this,
placed
we care for the students.
in the
We
wish
seem to
list.
also care for her quite a bit.
That's
So
what I'm trying to
she's
back.
okay. She's en route to the hospital, but we wouldn't have been able to find her without you. So I wanted to say thank you for that, okay? For our purposes, because these kinds of situations are very serious, God forbid it could have led to something else. I just need to confirm a few things on your. Is she a student of yours?
Yes.
Okay, what do you teach? Oh, AP English Lit. Oh, wow.
So
Okay,
he
well, you
ain't
work for the
chilling.
school board. I'm kind of new to the area, so you have to kind of explain it to me. I'm from up north. So you work for the public school or private school? It's school. Okay. And, right? How long have you worked
I'm
there?
confused. Is he the
Okay, and where did you work previously?
perpetrator or the victim?
Another charter school.
Okay, very nice. And how long have you been
I
teaching?
believe this is my 6th year.
Okay, it's not easy. I know I couldn't do it. Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about her?
Very intelligent.
Okay.
Ahead of her, top 20 in her class.
So she kind of confided in you?
Yes.
Okay. Very intelligent young girl. Okay. Prior to, today's incident, I know you said she's confided in you about different things. Just out of curiosity, and I get it. Like I said, I'm not a teacher, but you had her personal number and she had yours. So can you explain that a little to me?
Several of my students have over the years.
Okay.
Stay close.
Yeah.
Some of them just become really, very close.
Okay, that makes sense. And so I'm assuming, especially if they're intrigued and they're interested in the coursework and all things like that, you have a built interest, they have a built interest in the subjects. Okay. At what point did you guys exchange contacts?
Around September or October.
Okay. And what were some of the things that you guys talked about? Did she tell you where she wanted to go to school?
She just said she wanted to go in state. She was really mad at school.
Okay. All right. So fast forward to today. This seems a little bit too vague. So I kind of want to get into the nitty gritty. What specifically, because this is a serious thing.
People noticed that her and I were close.
So specifically, when these students said to her that they noticed that you and her were close, do you remember off the top of your head, what it was that they were saying? I kind of want to stay there a little bit. What do you think became out of control? And maybe it's not your fault, right? I know you're putting a lot of blame on yourself, but let's say it wasn't your fault. What became out of control?
That's definitely horrifying.
Okay. And as far as, maybe some of the things that you said or did, is there anything that you think that led to that or contributed to that?
No, her and I always had a good bond.
A good bond, okay. Did you guys meet up after school?
Every now and then I would stop by my grocery shopping and say hi.
Okay. Did you guys meet anywhere else besides for job?
Only once or twice.
Okay, that's fine. Once or
He
twice.
clearly
Was
is the
at a
pedo.
public place, private place, or
It was at a park.
was at a park? Okay. And what'd you guys do at the park?
We talked.
Okay. I get it. This is kind of uncomfortable, but I'm just curious. I have to ask, did the relationship become romantic at all?
I think that there was feelings that should be
On your end?
on both.
On both. You don't have to, but if we're being honest, right?
I should have stopped it.
Okay. I appreciate you being forthcoming. We're not here to judge you. We just want to, you understand, right?
Sorry, my hands are full. Do me a favor. If you take your foot out first, I'm going to help you out, okay? Just watch your head. All right. Turn around towards the car. Perfect. Hang out right there for a second. We're going to go right this way through that door. And then we're going to make this first right. Let me Get us in there. Do me a favor, just sit in that chair for me. And I'm going to come back in and I'm like, remember what I told you I was going to put the cuffs up front? Okay, we'll take care of that, okay? Just give me a second to put all this stuff down, okay? She gave you oral sex, you gave her oral sex. Okay, and where did that take place at? Where was it? Oh, in the car, but where? Do you remember where? Okay, and then you did say that you ejaculated, and then what did she do? Like, did you ejaculate on her mouth, on her? Okay, so you're saying you stopped and then ejaculated in the tissue, you didn't ejaculate into her mouth? So you ejaculated in her mouth and she spit it out? What's that? Okay, did she did she masturbate you to ejaculate, like at the end? All right.
So tell me what's going on at school. Okay, so the main parties are me, Alex, the victim, and then Damian Conti, our AP language arts teacher. She's my ex, right? Okay. And so I said we broke up around September. And then this, I can't confirm at the time. I saw them getting close.
Oh, her ex. Okay, the girl the teacher was sleeping with, her ex told. Okay, got it. He a little jealous. He was jealous. He didn't care that he did that because he was jealous. That's what that was.
And then I made note of that, and me and my friends, we also noticed that. And so we were thinking that's kind of weird. So there's that. And then more people started noticing it, and then rumors started spreading. I don't know the validity of all of them. With everything else that's come up, maybe some of them are true. I cannot confirm. We got into an argument, me and my ex. I want to say late December-ish, because she was blaming me for the rumors, even though I wasn't doing all that. I can confirm that. I was not out to make all these accusations against her, because half of them I'd never even heard before. Flash forward to last night, she was popping off on me, just like she was in December. What do you mean by that? Like she was getting angry at me. Okay. She wanted to basically cut ties between us two. So you guys still had a friendship of some sort? It was very shaky. I tried to distance myself from her around this time. A while back, when we were together, she added her email to my phone. I still get notifications and emails and whatnot from her thingy because she never removed it for whatever reason. I asked her, why'd you unfollow me on both of those accounts, but you followed me on this other account, which I'm pretty sure was a secret account because she didn't want anyone to know about it. So when I brought it up to her, she claimed that it wasn't hers at all. Basically, after that, she blocked me. I tried messaging. So fast forward to today morning, she was talking smack about me to other people because I'm 99% sure she was talking smack about me, right? I saw one curious message and I saw another one. I was aware at the time. I was aware a while ago, actually. She added our teacher. And I'm just shocked. And then I read a couple of them. And then I just was it was a little thingy where you can just look at every image that was sent. I saw pretty bad images of her and the teacher in question. Did you share these pictures with somebody today? I did. My girlfriend now. Okay. She Any was close school friends authority with or anything? The first person I brought it up to was my math teacher. Okay. My first period teacher. Okay. This was me recording stuff on her account with the teacher in question. What looks like their initials, D for Damien, his name. This one is the teacher, Damian Conti. And this was in a group chat that those three were in. And so, morning, love you, mostly mi esposa, my wife. If I remember correctly, my Spanish is kind of rusty. I love you more, which is another word for love. Morning, I'm driving to you now. That was him talking? Yeah, that was him talking. That was on what date? I don't have all the dates for all these because this is me going through everything. Okay. Because I screenshot all these within 40 minutes. Yeah, back up, touch hands, basically married now. That's how it works. We was married for better, for worse. We're there for each other. I love you, say that to each other. What did you do after you started finding out this stuff? I was first in shock. I was wondering what I should do, and then I eventually went up to my teacher and I was like, if I was to report this, what would I do? We talked to another teacher about it. Went to the guidance counselor. And the guidance counselor went to the vice principal and the principal, and then I talked to the school officer. You have a school officer there all the time? I think so. For an AP language arts teacher, he talks like a kid. Mind you, this man has a wife and 2 kids, I think. Anything that you ever witnessed yourself?
He said for him to be advanced placement.
They just be stuck together alone.
There was some conversation.
That's crazy. The student said for him to be an advanced placement teacher, he talks like a kid. He trying to fit in with that young girl.
With you. Remember that? Yeah. Tell me about it. It'd be conversations, but it wouldn't be sexual, but it'd be friendly.
Some of it might have been sexual. Some of the words used.
Some of the words used, yes. It wasn't. Well, for me, I wouldn't mean it for real.
Did he ever ask to take you out?
No.
I wouldn't
it
mean
was
it for
one time,
real.
in a group chat, but as of future graduation, hang out with friends, to take out me personally, would never ask me because I'm not allowed to go out.
So he never asked you?
No.
Did he ever buy you a gift?
He bought me one gift for Christmas.
What did he buy?
Ulta gift card.
Ulta? How much? Did you buy him anything?
No.
Did he ask for any favors from you? Sexual favors?
No.
And being a close friend, a lot of times close friends talk to each other. And I'm going to ask about sexual stuff that she said she did with him.
She's straight up lying. Cause dude did already spill the beans.
You ever hugged him?
I hugged him once.
Okay, what would that be?
In the classroom when I was leaving to say bye.
What was that? What kind of hug? Explain it.
Just a simple friendly hug and then that.
Something you hug your mother?
Quick hug. I would hug.
Where would his hands be?
On my shoulder. Here.
Kisses?
No. He would do kisses, but from her bye-bye, but not physical kisses. These past few days when the rumors started getting worse, and I could see that he was worried and stuff like that.
And that was via text, via phone calls, or Instagram?
Instagram. I didn't have any other contact but Instagram with it. I saw her walk in, her hair test, and then walk out. And then I could tell that something was serious. So I texted her on Instagram and said if she was okay. From what I've known today, she hasn't responded.
But you privately, conversation-wise, did you ever have any kind of talk about romance or any kind of relationship?
With him?
Yeah.
No.
Did he ever ask you out to go somewhere?
No. He only asked if I could go to the Valentine's dance in our school for next week. So I wouldn't be able to. But I told him no. And then he asked if I could convince my mom, but I said no because my mom doesn't allow me anywhere else, especially since the school is not close from where I live. So like she was like, no school events this year, no nothing, till like my senior year, so I could save up for that. Like the sexual part, I didn't personally know that they had relationships sexually. I only know they were really close friends.
Do you think it's odd to have a close relationship being 16 and somebody being 35?
Yeah, because that's double her age.
Hello? Oh, thank God. Are you okay? I know. It's been hard to get in contact. Are you okay?
They haven't given me my medicine yet. And
okay.
And listen very carefully. Did you talk to Lily, the attorney?
Yes, I did.
I can't talk about much, but listen.
I know. Hey, listen, let's be smart about this conversation, okay? I've been in contact with Lily. I've been in contact with the detectives. Your uncle is driving down from Georgia this weekend. He's going to try to come see you. I'm going to try to come see you as soon as possible. We are all okay, and we all are supporting you, okay? That's first things first, okay? I need to deactivate all your accounts. Is there anything, like, is TikTok on there and Instagram?
I mean, his wife is a soldier, but she also realized this nigga was fucking a 16-year-old, I guess. But she a soldier though. She was like, "Oh, nigga, don't talk on." See, the white lady know, don't talk on the goddamn phone. This shit record. How the white suburban lady know this and Young Thug and them didn't? It's just crazy. Daddy crazy, man.
I deleted my Instagram, I think.
Okay, listen, last thing. I started the paperwork for divorce, okay? Damien, this is not the first time we've talked about this. This is what you wanted, okay? Do you remember?
No, please listen to me. Please let me talk. I was confused because of all the trauma, and I was confused because he kept comparing you to.
Oh, hell no. She was like, nigga, we support you, but nigga, we getting this divorce. This what you wanted, nigga. This what you wanted. He like, no, baby, don't leave. But she holding you down. She just getting you a divorce. They support you, but y'all still getting a divorce, G. Oh no.
My mother, I want you and the babies are the only thing I can without.
Okay.
I have no proof. Please.
Listen. I am not taking the kids away from you, okay?
Please let me talk.
Okay.
If I get hurt, I will spend my entire life making it up to you. I swear to God.
I know.
So listen, I'll go to church with you. I'll get a ring tattooed on my finger for you. I will do literally anything. I'll get baptized again.
Wait, my nigga said I go to church with you. I get a ring tattooed on my finger, whatever. She must be asking this nigga to go to church with her for 17 years. That's the first thing he threw at. I go to church with you.
I want to go through the divorce process, okay? If down the road we can have a relationship that we can, but for right now, I'm requesting a divorce and I'm willing to continue to have a relationship with you for the sake of our children. Do you understand?
Please don't do this.
Damien, you told me a long time ago that you were not in love with me anymore, okay?
And I know why.
Shit.
Okay, then there will be time for that. But the reason I'm asking for this right now is because I need to have access to all of our assets to protect us and make sure that our children are protected for the immediate future, okay? For whatever the consequences that you face, all of our assets are at risk. But right now, I'm asking for this divorce. I'm going to file it myself because we can't afford attorneys. And if you just accept it uncontested, then this will go a lot smoother. And this is the first step to rebuilding our future. I wanted to give you a warning, and hopefully that we can be on the same page of this for when the paperwork gets to you. Okay.
Hey man, this bitch is a boss. They gotta run it back. She like, hold up, nigga. They ain't really even getting a divorce. They doing this for the gram. She said, well, we finna get some, cause they gonna try to sue your ass. She like, we hiding the assets, man. Just we getting this divorce. You been told me you ain't love me no way. See, she stuck around for the kids. He said he ain't love her no more. She stayed her ass there. And she wouldn't have left until this nigga got caught fucking the teenage girl from the school.
Continue to have a relationship with you for the sake of our children. Do you understand?
Please don't do this.
Damien, you told me a long time.
I mean, she is saying this shit matter of factly. You go, Karen. You go. Hold on, I gotta give Karen a round of applause because Karen stood her motherfucking ground. This is a jail call.
Like that, we can, but for right now, I'm requesting a divorce, and I'm willing to continue to have a relationship with you for the sake of our children. Do you understand? Damien, you told me a long time ago that you were not in love with me anymore, okay?
And I know why.
You understand, you little ass boy? You understand? You understand me? You here?
Okay, then there will be time for that. But the reason I'm asking for this right now is because I need to have access to all of our assets to protect us and make sure that our children are protected.
Let's see. She sound like a boss, but she is also a woman scorned. She just found this shit out. He done been said it. She like, you fucking a teenager. Nigga, give me access to all the assets. She gonna steal all this shit. I wouldn't even be mad at her, but she definitely would. Yeah, that all of it. You need access to all the assets. Yeah, she finna leave this nigga high and dry. You can have the kid. You can see the kids, but you ain't gonna have no money.
For the immediate future, okay? For whatever the consequences that you face, all of our assets are at risk. But right now, I'm asking for this divorce. I'm going to file it myself because we can't afford attorneys. And if you just accept it uncontested, then this will go a lot smoother. And this is the first step to rebuilding our future. I wanted to give you a warning, and hopefully that we can be on the same page of this for when the paperwork gets to you, okay? Okay. I know. We're here for you, okay? Everyone's good. Everyone's fine and safe, okay? No.
I'm gonna let you back. I'm gonna let you back. I swear everything.
Okay.
They there for you. She ain't say fuck you or nothing. Okay? And she still to be smart.
Based on the investigation, officers found probable cause to arrest Mr. Contis on 3 charges of unlawful sexual acts and 3 counts of offenses against a student by an authority figure. What are your thoughts on this shocking case? Share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our weekly videos.
Two more.
Not a story you hear every day, and thankfully not. A Florida nurse is going to spend time in prison after her husband walked in on her having sex with her teenage stepson. But it was the boy's bravery in coming forward and telling the truth. That is what helped police nail the now convicted sex offender. We're going to sit down with a Florida attorney to talk about a plea deal. The defendant. Not a story you hear every day, and thankfully not. A Florida nurse is going to spend time in prison after her husband walked in on her having sex with her teenage stepson. But it was the boy's bravery in coming forward and telling the truth. That is what helped police nail the now convicted sex offender. We're going to sit down with a Florida attorney to talk about a plea deal, the defendant's fate, and the disturbing details of how he got here. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. 35-year-old Alexis Von Yates, a nurse who at one time was working in Marion County, Florida, will now spend the next 2 years in prison, followed by a lengthy probation period after she sexually assaulted her 15-year-old stepson. In court this week, before Von Yates' sentencing, that teen's mother called Von Yates a coward and incestuous pedophile for abusing this boy while he stayed with his father in Ocala over the summer vacation in 2024. An affidavit that was filed in court in November contained what can only really be described as graphic and stomach-churning details, which the teen provided to investigators after eventually telling his mother what had happened after returning home to Washington, D.C. Now, to talk about this case, to talk about Von Yates' sentencing, I want to bring in a different Alexis, Florida trial attorney Alexis Rosenberg. It's not like we picked you because you have the same name, but you do have a specialization in covering these kinds of cases. You know, I don't know what the most shocking part of this case is. The fact that Von Yates apparently seduced her 15-year-old stepson, that her husband, his dad, walked in on them in the middle of the act, that he encouraged his son not to tell anyone what happened. What's your reaction?
I mean, the whole thing is disturbing that the stepmom would do this, and the fact that the father appears and is advising the son not to say anything. I mean, you would think that the first reaction of the father would be to immediately call the police as well as the child's mother and advise, both parties of what had just happened.
And it is kind of remarkable to be thinking about. And now that she's been sentenced, it's a very different kind of situation. And I'm going to get into her nursing license in a minute. But if you haven't been following the story, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the accusations that this teen had made. So he told investigators that his dad was working overnight as a lineman, and he was hanging out with Von Yates in the living room after his younger half siblings had gone to bed. He says they stayed up late. They were playing video games. They were watching movies. They were even using Yates' marijuana vape pen. And police paperwork indicates that the teen told a forensic interviewer that Yates had been making sexual jokes in front of him for approximately a week leading up to that night. Now, Alexis, let's just stop right there. Some would say this is grooming. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with it was grooming. I mean, she was very aggressive, and I don't know how much in detail we're going to get into exactly what she said to him, but it is public record, and it actually is even in part of the filings having to do with her nursing license. But the night, we're going to assume there was more conversations similar to the ones that took place on the night of the incident, but it's extremely disturbing the things that she was saying to him.
And according to an arrest affidavit, he also disclosed that he hadn't had any sort of sexual experience before and was infatuated with Von Yates. Now, according to the arrest affidavit, quote, the suspect and child victim kissed. As the suspect began escalating, the suspect said, "Oh man, I wish you were 18 because you're not old enough." The teen told the interviewer that he performed oral sex on her, and this escalated with the two then having sex. He says when his father came in unexpectedly, found them on the couch, he ran to hide in another room. The teen claimed that his father told him to pack his things to go stay at his grandparents' home. And as he was packing, he claims he overheard Von Yates telling his father that she was sorry and that this child victim looks like his father when he was younger. Now, Alexis, I think it's important to note in any case, particularly this one.
Wait a damn minute. He put his son out and not the bitch? This nigga is weird. He's soft as a motherfucker. Your son was a virgin. That ain't his mama. This your bitch. You gonna put him out and not her? How come you ain't send her to stay with your grandma? That's crazy work.
We always wonder, how can an allegation be credible if it's just based on purely someone's account? I've always said, are things just so unbelievable, so outrageous, so crazy that it has to be true? Like, how could someone make something like that up?
Well, I think in this situation, it's not just a he said, she said, because we have the situation, like you had mentioned, that the father walked in on them. And then it also sounds like there was some admissions that were going on that were also made. I mean, here's the bottom line. We have a grown person that is actually assaulting a 15-year-old child. This is a child that we have. And there's been studies done that there is obviously some severe mental health concerns for this child when this type of thing happens to them. So I don't think that we had in this case that it's so absurd, somebody maybe made it up situation, but it is concerning in many sexual assault cases.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked out of a meeting and just thought, wait, what did we just decide? Or maybe you sat through a great discussion, but you kind of lost track of the action items later. Look, I've been there. I'll admit it. But that is why I want to bring your attention to our partner, Plod AI Leaders. Can you the context most sensitive of topic % off of, and it only gets
because he's the minor, she's the adult.
Yeah. Before Yates had been saying, discouraged him from below or scan the QR code on screen. And it only gets worse because according to the teen, multiple family members discouraged him from talking to the police or telling his mom what happened. His aunt also allegedly told him that Von Yates had been saying that he manipulated her into having sex. Have you heard anything like that before, Alexis?
Well, first of all, under the law, that can't be because he's the minor, she's the adult. Yeah. There's no, it's black and white. There's no, if she had sexual intercourse with him, then it doesn't matter if he, quote unquote, enticed her. And you know, what's interesting here, I think what sticks out is if this would have been in the reverse, where you would have had a stepfather with a female stepchild, then we might not have been having this conversation. I think what's jumping out here is the fact that it's that kind of old like thought that I thought our society had gotten past of, oh, he probably wanted it because he's this 15-year-old boy, and you know she was doing a favor, which is ridiculous. She sexually assaulted this child.
And the idea of trying to keep it quiet, you know, I don't want anybody getting in trouble, don't want family getting involved, don't want people knowing what's going on. This is like next level.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I don't know if the husband's still with her or if he plans on, but based on his actions, that kind of sounds like that his intent instead of writing away.
I bet his simp ass did not leave her.
Going and filing for divorce. I don't know if that is the case here. I mean, there's no excuse. I would assume it would have come out if she had done, other than the joke, something else. But the question is, what other inappropriate things maybe had she done previously that have not come to light yet?
Yeah, so when police arrested her in November, according to the affidavit, it says, Yates advised she did not wish to speak with me without a lawyer present, but made several unprovoked statements about believing that since the Department of Children and Families had closed their case, she was in the clear, saying the incident was so accusatory, attempting to put blame.
What at your mama?
No, it's my girl. She went and got it from my mom house.
On the child victim. So Von Yates was released on a $10,000 bond until September 16th when she received her sentence. And prosecutors had initially upgraded her charges to sexual battery by a person in familial authority, which is a first-degree felony, carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. But she opted to take a plea on a lesser charge of lewd and lascivious battery on a child between the ages of 12 and 16. And that plea deal came after the judge determined earlier this year that the victim's statement in the weeks and months after the assault, that would be allowed in a trial. You can kind of guess here, Alexis, right? She probably felt, I'm going to lose.
Huh? Shit, I don't know. I got that thing when it first came out. I guess it's the original stand they had for him.
Let me try to take the best deal I can.
Criminal cases do plea out, as we all know, a lot of times. So that's not unusual. What's unusual in this particular case is, first of all, we had a major downgrade of the charge. So we go from sexual battery, which she faced life imprisonment, all the way down to lewd and lascivious, which maximum is 15 years. So that's number one. The next thing is there's a scorecard when you are sentenced. And we had a major downgrade off of that scorecard. So what took place was the judge, which they're supposed to do is have a conversation, or the prosecution is supposed to have a conversation as well with the victims. How do you feel about this plea? And what happened was that the mother of this minor child was very concerned that this child was going to have to testify in an open court. Now, in Florida, a lot of people don't know this, that a minor...
I mean, my parenting is effective. He got his goddamn PlayStation. He used mine no more. Hey, nigga, I did that. It worked.
Would have to testify in open court. This case we're talking about here got quite a bit of media attention. It was, on social media as well. And the mother was severely concerned about the child having to testify in open court and relive what had happened to him. So the mother, as well as the child, they agreed to the plea. And that is why the judge, because the judge could have kicked this plea out. The judge could have said, no, this is going to trial. But that's why in this particular case, the judge agreed to accept this plea, which really 2 years for what she did really is very minimus.
I agree, because my understanding, like you said, is under state law, this victim.
My 17-year-old stole my damn jeans, and now he ducking me because I realized it today. Because I looked at the motherfucker this weekend, it was like, I ain't wore them in a minute. And then I went to look for him, and then I thought it was his older brother. And he was like, hell no. So I've been texting my damn 17-year-old son probably since about 11 o'clock. That nigga ain't answered. I told his brother to call him to try to get him with the 32 fake off, and he ain't answer for him neither. I said, yeah, he guilty. I'm gonna cuss his little ass out when I do talk to him. I sure am. Like, what's up, bruh? Why you ain't just ask? You just you stealing from me there? These niggas is losing their minds. They is losing their damn minds. The only sane one is the 13-year-old. Gracie losing her mind too. Jeez.
Would have been required to testify and have to be cross-examined. I mean, even getting on the stand in general is really tough.
I know that's stealing
and can be
very hell no, that is stealing. When my shit is gone and you ain't say nothing to me, that's stealing. And then he ducking me. He ducking me. That's right. I'm gonna tell his brother the press. I'm like, he got me. He had me looking at you crazy because he did that. You need to put your brother in check, man. He almost got you shot out for. That's all I'm gonna do. That's what I'm saying. They jumped me this weekend. Truth. That's why I was telling you. You talk about some I'm fine. They jumped me. Them 3 kids was whooping my ass. All the whole lot of them. And they stole shit, apparently. After that, they messed up the house. They stole shit. Ate up every goddamn thing. Didn't clean shit. That's like, y'all niggas is nasty. They're just saying. Ugh. God damn it.
But to have to face cross-examination and questioning your account, and so, a lawyer potentially calling you a liar, making up the allegations. Look, people will say she should spend decades in prison. But in the interest, maybe you put the interest.
Now she big shit. Now she don't baby Patty. She don't steal. She got a goddamn mouth on her. She make me want to cuss her out the shit she be saying.
Of justice to the side, and you think about
the
overall effect here, and you think about the benefit.
And she a picky eater anyway, so she don't want most of my shit anyway. But she'll ask, like she'll just come up and just sit next to me. If it's something she really want to try that I got, she'll just sit next to me and tell me like, "What? What you eating? What's that? Oh, I like such and such. I've never had that. Give me some."
To this victim of not having to go through that, it's tough to say if this is the right ending.
I mean, that's, in my opinion, it's the judgment of the victim. And that's why the prosecutor went and spoke to the mother and the victim about what do you want and what do you think is justice. I would believe that the mother and the victim would want her to spend much longer, but she's still going to prison. As well, as you mentioned before, she was a nurse. She's en route to permanently lose her license.
Let's talk about it. So first, before we even get to that, according to a local paper, Ocala News, in an order authorizing the plea deal, the judge wrote, most persons have never had to observe the adverse impact that testifying publicly can have on a child who is required to recount the most intimate and private details of their life in a jury trial. This court has had that opportunity, and that adverse impact cannot be overstated. That impact would have been undoubtedly amplified in the instant case where the substance of the victim's testimony would be made public in a profound, far-reaching, and permanent way. The order went on to say that Von Yates' plea spared the victim the exposure, embarrassment, and re-traumatization that would result from being compelled to recount some of the most intimate moments of his life so far. So what does this plea mean for her? Well, again, 2 years in state prison, probation for 10 years, 200 hours of community service with the Marion County Solid Waste Litter Control. She has to register as a sex offender, no contact with the victim during this entire sentence. Alexis, before we go further, her life after prison is no picnic. What do you see generally for people after they leave prison?
I mean, the big thing is that she's on that sex registry. Now, remember, that's public record. People do not want people on that record in their neighborhood. That she potentially is going to have trouble finding housing. She potentially is going to have trouble finding a job. So her life definitely is going to change substantially, and also going to prison. That's no walk in the park, but it's going to change substantially. Jesse, going back to that about the child testifying, many people don't understand that and why that has to be. And that's under the Sixth Amendment right for confrontation. So it's a constitutional right, but it really is re-traumatizing that child. It is a balance. Yeah. And a lot of prosecutors that prosecute these sexual type cases, it is something that they have to take into consideration. And, because they have to relive it, like you said.
Now, since she spent a little bit of time in the Marion County Jail before she was released on bond, 2 days were marked down as time served. The court indicated that the victim and his mother were in 100% agreement with this plea deal. This is something we've talked about. But one other thing to think about here, Alexis, as far as we were able to see, she didn't have any prior criminal history. Is that strange to you? Like, is this a one-off? Is this part of a compulsion? Are other people haven't come forward? It has to start somewhere. But, at the same time, when you talk about someone who's committed a crime, sometimes they lead law-abiding lives, and then one day they commit murder. So it's not surprising. We've seen that. But does it surprise you here that you're not seeing anything else?
It doesn't surprise me. I think that why this is slightly different, and it shouldn't be, like I mentioned before, is you have the woman is the person perpetrating sexual assault on a boy. And there's all of that background and perceptions that are attached to that. So it's very possible that she was doing inappropriate things with other minor boys, and they may not have said anything to anybody. I mean, if you think that this child would have listened to those adults that were saying, don't say anything, and didn't go to his mother, then she may have gotten away with this. I mean, that's the bottom line. So how many other times was she, during the course of her life, put in a position where she maybe didn't take it this far, but it came, close, and nobody said anything, and there were no ramifications.
That's a good point. Look, this case has had consequences beyond the court proceedings. The state of Florida suspended Von Yates' nursing license after her arrest in an order of emergency suspension of license. The state's Surgeon General wrote, Miss Yates' continued practice of nursing constitutes an immediate, serious danger to the health, safety, or welfare of the people of the state of Florida, and this summary procedure is fair under the circumstances to adequately protect the public. Alexis, what do you think about that?
So yeah, she should have, under the rules, she's supposed to what's called self-report. So when she was arrested, she should have self-reported this. So this goes on to support kind of just her MO. You know, she's like thinking, oh, they're not going to find out. I don't know what she was thinking in her head, but she didn't self-report and it forced them to do this emergency suspension. Now it's only a suspension. So there's now a proceeding to permanently take away or revoke her license, which I think this is going to be a slam dunk there because now she's been convicted.
So in other words, you don't see a path by which once she's released from prison, she could ever get a nursing license back in Florida or another state.
She could reapply, but I do not see that they are going to approve based on these circumstances because there really is a basis to say she is a danger to the public. And that is kind of the threshold that they're going to look at. You know, is she a danger? There are circumstances where somebody could be convicted of a crime and they are able to keep their license. There's different avenues. They can put in restrictions. They can make sure they have oversight. There's other things that the licensing board can do. But in this circumstance, especially with this conviction at this point, no, I think they're going to revoke her license permanently. And even if she attempts to apply, I don't foresee her being able to get it back in any state. She would have to disclose to any other state that her license had even at this point been emergency suspended. And she would have to disclose that if it is permanently revoked, that happened. If she didn't do that, once they found that out, that would be a basis alone for not giving her back her license.
Uphill battle, to say the least. You know, there's another consequence to what happened here, and maybe not surprising, but it's been reported that the victim's relationship with his family has been massively damaged. According to the New York Post, the boy's mother told the judge that Von Yates' actions ruined the teen's relationship with his father, claiming the two haven't spoken since this happened. And that's something, Alexis, we
my nigga was jealous of his son. That's crazy work. That is crazy work. He was jealous of his son. And he was jealous that he fucked his gal and that he cooperated. And she got to do time. Fucked up world.
We think about the ripple effects, the ramifications of something like this. We don't even know if Von Yates is talking in a relationship with the boy's father, but talk to me about the effect that this has now had.
I think the problem when you have sexual assault, like you had brought up, Jesse, that, you know, a lot of times it's hard for people to fathom or believe that that took place, or they don't want to, they're in denial. It does tend to sometimes separate families, unfortunately. I can't speak to the father's motivation. Obviously, you would hope that he would support and stand by his son for what happened to him. And hopefully moving forward, it's my understanding the boy is in therapy for this. Hopefully moving forward, they will be able to have a relationship, not for the father, but for this child's mental health. You know, we all hope that he gets there and this doesn't have permanent effects on his life, that this is a ripple, and with that therapy that he'll move forward and be able to be, you know, a happy functioning adult.
What a case. Alexis Rosenberg, thank you so much for taking the time. It was good to see you.
Thank you for having me, as always, Jesse.
And that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on X or Instagram. I'm Jesse Weber. See you next time.
All right, this is the last one. This other one y'all see. This tomorrow. I already got the thumbnail made. Florida couple caught with child porn also had sex with dogs. Again, white folks' crimes are just completely different.
They're a family that looked perfect in pictures, but the photos found on their phone unveiled an alleged gross perfect.
Oh yeah, he looked like he a fucking dog. He was an old good time frat boy. Y'all know he was in Lambda Kappa Pi. Come on now, look at that white boy. Y'all know he didn't went to some toga parties and shit. Like he'll say, "Woo!" I can't even do it. I guess you can only do it when you be drunk. You can hit that jump like the white boy. And knocked her up. Get her done.
But the photos found on their phone unveiled an alleged gross, disgusting, and terrifying secret. This Florida couple, one a firefighter, one a real estate agent, now accused of the unthinkable. Both are facing several charges, accused of possessing child pornography and several counts of
Look at his freak ass. He looked like he belonged on a 70s sitcom. Freaky officer looking at him.
Allegedly performing sex acts with the dog. We're on the case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. No words for this one. I'm going to be honest with you up front before we go through this episode. This is a story that is not easy to talk about, and it is disgusting what this couple is accused of doing. It's also just scary when you think about this couple and what they presented to the public, but who they may really be. As much as we can say this is disgusting, and certainly what they're accused of is disgusting, it is scary and terrifying, truly an alleged wolves in sheep's clothing. And this is why. Let's get into it. The couple's names, Jordan and Harley Hoffman. Now, the couple allegedly, they put up this front where you would not expect them to be accused of this. I mean, it's hard to believe anybody would be accused of this, but this couple, they have children, 2 children, from what we can see in pictures. And they also had good jobs. Harley worked as a real estate agent. And it seems from social media, she also lost a lot of weight recently, that she was feeling very confident about herself. Jordan, her husband, he was a firefighter in Columbia County, Florida, where they lived. And now where they are both facing charges, including alleged sex acts with a dog. Now, here's what we know. This story first broke in Lake City, Florida in August, when Jordan, the husband, was arrested by Lake City, Florida police. Detectives said there was a tip that came in from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Now, on the surface, he appeared to be a model dad, a firefighter in the community, a first responder. He would post pictures as normal dads would, either working on his truck or being there with his wife for an ultrasound when they were expecting a child. The tip, though, that came in through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children shattered that image. It unveiled an alleged horrifying reality of who this man may actually be if found guilty. It was about alleged child sexual exploitation material being shared on Snapchat. Now, detectives received this tip and then they went through and tried to trace it back to a number. They said the material was that of a, quote, prepubescent child engaged in sexually explicit conduct. Now, further investigation found that the account was that of Jordan Hoffman, a 33-year-old firefighter in Lake City, Florida. Police say they found that Hoffman was the subject of a second tip that came in related to allegedly sending another image of an unclothed child. Hoffman was arrested and sent to the local jail. After his arrest, detectives got his phone, they analyzed it, and this story became even more disturbing in ways that we could not have expected. Not only did that phone allegedly show more child sexual exploitation material, they uncovered evidence allegedly involving Hoffman's wife, Harley, a local real estate agent. And then detectives said not only were both the Hoffmans now accused of alleged sexual material involving children, but animals as well. Specifically, according to court documents, alleged sex acts with a dog. Now, Jordan Hoffman faces numerous counts related to the alleged images depicting him engaging in sex acts with the animal. Local TV station WCJB reports that Harley Hoffman allegedly is visible in the images with the animal as well. Jordan Hoffman is facing 57 counts related to what officers say they found on his phone. And you can see in this count, it says on or about August 24th, 2025 in Columbia County, Florida, did then and there knowingly film, distributed, and possessed any pornographic image or video of a person and an animal engaged in sexual contact with an animal. Jordan Hoffman's charges include 35 counts of sexual activity involving animals, 13 counts of possession of child pornography, 5 counts promoting sexual performance by a child, and other charges including unlawful use of a two-way device and a count of destroying evidence. His wife Harley is facing 14 counts, and that includes 8 for sexual activity involving animals and 5 for possession of child pornography. Now, there are still a lot of details that have yet to come out, including what relation this couple had to their alleged victims. Now, we do know that they were parents. Harley posted TikToks with their kids. They were seen out on Christmas, like so many families do, taking pictures in front of a tree. Harley's employer, though, posted this statement on their social media. It's a local real estate company, and it was in response to her arrest. It reads, quote, "We are aware of the recent allegations made against one of our now former realtors. Southern Integrity Realty does not condone or support the behaviors associated with these allegations. We are committed to upholding the highest standards of professionalism and integrity within our organization and promoting safety within this community we love." Court records show that Harley Hoffman waived her arraignment. She entered a not guilty plea to all the charges that she is facing, and it reads that she's demanding a jury trial in this case. Jordan has yet to enter a plea, according to court records. He is next expected in court on October 1st for a hearing where he is demanding his bond be lowered. Do you ever notice how some habits just sneak into your day without you even realizing it? For a lot of people, that means reaching for something, sponsor, and fidgeting. Now, what features are focused. Plus,
this nigga talking about smoking air.
You can find a journey. So if you're, you will get a.com/law to currently be held. Scan the QR code on your screen to get yours today. Both Jordan and Harley seem to currently be held in the Columbia County Jail. Now, I can also see with online court records that there are active custody cases in family court in Columbia County where it appears extended family members of the Hoffmans are filing to take custody of their children as they're now facing these extreme charges and accused of unthinkable actions. Now, this story is shocking, and there's no way to understate that. Even if they were career criminals, what they're accused of would be unthinkable. But on top of the good jobs and appearing to be a happy family, the Hoffmans have no serious criminal record other than previous traffic issues. Joining us now to talk more about this is criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Kathleen Bogenschutz, joining us from Florida. Thank you for taking the time to be with us on Law and Crime. I know this is not a fun story to talk about, to say the least.
Big bag Bogenschutz.
70 charges in total between this couple. It's 57 for Jordan Hoffman that his wife Harley, roughly 13 charges for her. What does that tell you about the evidence that prosecutors have against the couple in this case?
So most of us don't think like offenders in our daily lives, and for good reason, and I'm glad we don't. But this is something that when I was prosecuting sex crimes, we used to talk about every single day. What do you need in order to, if you were inclined to do so, to victimize a child like this, to victimize animals like this? You need access to the victim, and you also need privacy. So if you have one without the other, you can't do it. Lake City is we're a much more rural area in Florida. And it would not shock me that they had the privacy to be able to do these kinds of things and to create this kind of stuff. You wouldn't expect somebody to be creating it someplace where, you're in an apartment building with thin walls, things like that. You need to have the access to the victim, and you need to have the privacy to be able to do it, particularly in this kind of, I hate to say prolific kind of a way.
Because if someone was found with one video of what they're accused of, which is bestiality they're accused of, as well as child sex abuse material, one would be, I would assume, prison time and would be a very, very serious offense. But when you're facing as many as they are, how would cases like that differ, knowing that there is just so much that they apparently have on this couple?
Well, it's actually a really good point that you make, because unfortunately, I mean, it's great when technology improves over time for us as people, usually. But back in the day, like back in the 90s, to exchange videos like this, I mean, they were sending CDs through the mail. They were sending those old floppy disks through the mail. And these days, computers are just capable of so much, and cameras are capable of so much, and you can fit so much onto one little SD card and trade it over the internet so easily, that we have seen just a real increase in the number of videos and photos that individual offenders have had on their devices, just as technology has improved, which kind of makes sense. The sentencing guidelines, however, have not changed that much. And I would expect to see some pretty significant, at least under Florida sentencing guidelines. I'm assuming that we would be dealing with aggravated child pornography if we've got multiple charges, and then we're going to end up with minimum mandatories based on that.
What if you had to ballpark the type of prison sentence that they could face? What type of time would they be looking at?
So Florida has score sheets, and it's basically so former judge that's a public defender, former judge that's a prosecutor. You get almost like a sentencing guideline range. In this case, I would expect that it is entirely possible that at least the male of the two with the larger number of counts may score in the range. I could sit down and work out with a pencil and paper, but he may score in the range of a potential life sentence. In Florida, if you score over 360 points, not months, points, the judge could sentence you to a life sentence.
And it's just, there's a lot of this story that's shocking. I mean, I think even, their professions, they seem to be on the surface kind of like model citizens, but then there's all of this. And even with what they're accused of, like they could be career criminals, and it still would be shocking that someone would do this stuff. But, and of course, we'll see how they're innocent until proven guilty. I want to say that. But when you look at this case, and you prosecuted sex crimes, and the fact that there's this bestiality element to it as well that they're accused of, I mean, how common is a case like this?
I can tell you that, and I was assigned to do sex crimes for 8 of the 12 years I was a prosecutor. I think I have only seen 2 or 3 bestiality cases. And keep in mind that, I was also in an office that for 4 of those years, that is the only thing I did. Those are the only kinds of cases that were assigned to me. So highly unusual. Not saying it never happens, but there's reasons, there are laws against it. Let's put it that way. And I will also make this other point, they look like upstanding citizens. Something that a forensic psychologist said to me years ago has always resonated with me, and I pass this on for the parents of other small children, as I have a young daughter as well. If monsters look like monsters, they would never be able to get close enough. So, if somebody looks dangerous and scary, they're probably not going to be able to get close to your kid or close to you. And I hate to, espouse paranoia, but this is why we keep our radar up as parents and as people, and this is why we don't let our kids go over to other people's houses without supervision and making sure we know who they are.
Yeah, and that's a really profound kind of way, because I haven't necessarily, I mean, we cover a lot of cases, unfortunately, where it's the kind of the wolf in sheep's clothing is the cliche line. And then it's like, you look at this one and it's a family of 4, and we don't know if their children were involved in this. But, they just look like normal people with normal jobs. And then you read the court documents and it's just, they're accused of being monsters. And I think the other part of it too, for me, that I find in cases where you have not just one member of the family who's accused of being involved in some of this terrible stuff, but you have a second person in the family who's involved allegedly in this stuff. And it's just, what is the dynamic that you see in some of these cases involving couples where it's like you have two people who are predators, allegedly, who have found themselves in this world, and then they continue on and then eventually find themselves in cases like this?
So I'll show my age here for a second. I think I'm a bit older than you are. Back in the 90s in Canada, there was this case, it was called the Ken and Barbie killers. And the prosecution gave the sweetheart plea deal to the female of the two because they were allegedly abducting and sexually assaulting females together and eventually killing some of them. And the female got the plea deal, the benefit of the plea deal, and got a couple of years in prison, I think, with light at the end of the tunnel, and has been released since. And then they found the videos of what was happening, and apparently she was participating in all of it. It's always a question mark. And another thing that, an old homicide prosecutor told me when I was, trying to find some meaning in a case, and he said, if you try to impose your logic on something that defies it, you're going to just drive yourself insane and accomplish nothing. So, we've seen these male-female teams work in the past. There's even video footage of it from back in the 90s. And of course, that would have had to have been one of these type cameras. But they were filming their exploits with these girls. And it turned out that the female of the couple was just as involved. Now, she claimed in that case, it was Carla Homolka, and the male's name is escaping me, Paul Bernardo, I think. But she was claiming to be the victim of domestic violence. There were these pictures of her with her eyes punched out. So there was this kind of decision made by the prosecutors that one of these two is more culpable than the other, and that maybe she was there was some kind of Stockholm syndrome going on when she was participating to it. And then they found the videos. And there was kind of a public outcry to revoke her plea offer. And I think in Canada it was the Crown prosecutor, but they stood by their plea deal. But we have seen these kinds of like folie à deux type couples happen in the past. I'm not saying that's what happened here. It's entirely possible that, we've got one out of the two that has significantly more power in the relationship. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Because just based off and that's an interesting point about domestic violence and certainly there's relationships that involve domestic violence that are incredibly serious. In this case, you have, Jordan is facing 57 charges. His wife, it's 13 or 14 charges, all of them serious charges that she's facing. But it seems that he was far more involved based off the evidence than she was. Yet I know that there's a local TV station saying that she was seen in the video. So she is there. How could the defense, how effective is that defense if they go with, well, he was the one leading this. This was, maybe an abusive relationship. He had the power in the relationship, and she was just kind of there, trapped part of it. How effective can that be in a case like this where, if you show this video, which we haven't seen it, not that I think anybody would want to see it, but if you show that video to a jury, it seems like that'd be a very strong piece of evidence against her.
So Florida has a theory of prosecution called principal theory. And the way that I used to explain it to juries is that the Nuremberg defense doesn't fly in Florida. Like, I was just following orders. This guy told me to do it, so I did it. Or I only pulled the lever. I didn't shoot the gun. If you take some part in the offense, you are responsible for all of the offense. So, or if you really want to work it down into colloquialisms, if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. So in front of a jury, that argument should not carry a lot of water with the principal theory instruction, but it may hold some water with the prosecution in deciding if one of the two wants to turn state's evidence and testify against the other. And it would appear that these two are married. So then we also have issues of spousal privilege. Now, I will also note that there are important exceptions to spousal privilege in Florida when a child is victimized or when there's domestic violence. So, basically you can't terrorize your family and then claim spousal privilege.
I did see in court records where she waived her arraignment and entered a plea of not guilty. He has not, so he's still slated to have his arraignment. I think it's October 1st. What would you read into that? What does that tell you about, is there anything to take away from how both, if they're going to be tried separately, how these cases could go?
So, they obviously can't be represented by the same lawyer. I don't know if the public defender's office was appointed to her, and then another attorney maybe off of the wheel. That's what we call it, the wheel. Like a private attorney would be a specially appointed public defender, or he would get conflict counsel essentially to represent him. So that could be the explanation as to why she was able to enter a plea and he was not. There's a bunch of steps of bureaucracy that you have to go through when the public defender's office conflicts off a case. So I haven't looked it up to check that she has a public defender, but that's my first suspicion, that he's kind of winding his way through the bureaucracy to get his own lawyer appointed.
And I know you're a criminal defense attorney as well. And I think for Jordan, the husband, facing 57 total charges, these were tips that came in through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Apparently, prosecutors have some very damning evidence against him. What's the defense? What's the strategy you take when you have a client that it seems like prosecutors would have him, and of course he's accused at this point, we haven't seen the evidence, but they would have him dead to rights that you have this child sex abuse material on your phone and your wife is allegedly in the videos as well. And there's the bestiality element to it too, which makes it even more shocking.
So the first move that I would be making is to examine the search warrants, because there's probably multiple levels of search warrants that were done in this case. I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong, but that's your first move as a defense attorney. Just because it's a truly disgusting, stomach-turning crime doesn't mean that they don't deserve the same protections under the law that we all do. So I would be looking at the search warrants. I would be double checking that the things that they applied for the search warrants for were actually criminal offenses. I actually have a case like that open right now where the police applied for a search warrant and then never charged the guy for the first crime because they decided they didn't have probable cause. And I went, yikes, that doesn't sound like it had, that doesn't sound like it was a very good basis for a search warrant. We're going to be litigating that. So that's your first move. Your second move is to see a lot of times when you have a family and they're all using different devices, like who actually had access to it. Now, because we have cell phones with Face ID and stuff like that, that might fail really quickly for purposes of saying, oh, somebody else was in my phone, or it's Face ID, and computers and phones have the ability to, like, for example, my MacBook now can read my fingerprint to open the computer, and you can look through the past events to show whether it was my passcode that I typed in or whether I used my finger, and one of those two is far more likely to be personally me. So depending on what kinds of devices they have, you might be fairly dead to rights, and it might be time to negotiate. But it doesn't mean you don't kick the tires as a defense attorney. It doesn't mean you don't read through all the warrants. I have seen some very stupid mistakes made by some very smart police officers and prosecutors in the past.
And if at the end of the day, you look and everything was done by the book, they have him, let's just say, if you're a prosecutor, why, or I guess this goes to the defense attorney part of it. What leverage is there to get something better than going to trial and knowing that you could get a conviction and holding him to the highest level of the law?
So the first thing that you could look at is there anything that I or my client can offer you, the state, in exchange for a better plea deal? One of those things, and unfortunately, people like me think this way because that's our job. But one of those things is that when you have children that are the victims of these offenses, not making them testify, not making them go to a deposition, is something that the state is often willing to negotiate for. So you have that conversation with the prosecutor and you say, look, I think all these search warrants are in order. I can't make a motion to suppress with a straight face. I deposed all the cops. Everybody looks like they're on the up and up. If I choose not to depose the child or children in this case, like not to ask them questions, not to make them talk about it, what kind of a plea deal would you be offering me to not do that? And in some jurisdictions, there's like an unwritten rule that if you depose the victim of a sex crime, that there's no more plea offers. That's a really bad general rule to have, because sometimes your case collapses in on itself like a neutron star as a prosecutor. I think back to, I think it was one of the guys in Hollywood that said never work with children or animals, because you never know what's going to happen. And in fact, when I used to prosecute cases with children, to a case, I always put the child on first and then used the rest of the witnesses to clean up whatever the heck just happened with the kid on the stand, because it's just very difficult to control children and to be able to make them talk about what will hopefully be the worst thing that ever happened to them in front of a courtroom full of people. So that's part of the negotiation there. There's also whether there were statements made by the child. A lot of times there are forensic interviews that are videotaped, so you already have a pretty good idea of what the kid's going to say, and you can go through that with your client and try to sit down and try to have a difficult conversation about the strength of the evidence here, which I think a lot of defense attorneys neglect to mention when they're talking about how you do cases. A lot of this job is making very difficult decisions and having very tough conversations with your clients.
Yeah, and that's going to be certainly a part of this going forward. Such a disturbing case out of Florida. But Kathleen Bogenschutz, it's always good to have you on Law and Crime.
Thanks for having me.
All right, y'all. That's all I got on that one. Tomorrow I'll do it. I got a Flexi in the morning. She went live on Terry this evening. That's him why he can't tell the truth. And then I got Paul Pierce tomorrow night. And then I got to find some content for you good people. Like, I got to find some content after that. I'm stumped. Could just mean take the weekend off because it'll be college football. You know, tomorrow is Friday. I have the morning and night covered. Who knows? Some will pop up though. It always does. To the next episode. Little channel, big voice. We out. Never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Niggas talking reckless, shooters, bitch ass with the quickness. Now he bleeding, sorry, begging, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 limp biscuit. All my niggas wildin', they done labeled us a misfit. Wake up every morning, 2 or 3, 5 in the tidbit. Oh shit, did nobody come to see you old? It's some focus. Shoot 100 shots, no reloaded. Master of the game, you would think I'm into coded. Memphis niggas spit this pimpin', mackin' like I'm golden. Ho, with my money, you gon' turn me to the old me. Say hi, first class flight, I'm in the nosebleed. Copy, cooking, whipping, shipping, till you count the proceeds. OG, I've been moving back niggas since 03. Low key, niggas hating, but they don't want no beef. State gang, true sippers, bitch, I bet we gon' eat. Get jammed, get a lawyer, make it bunny, don't speak. Pour up, I need some more. A nigga had a long week. Shout out to my plug, he showed me love, he out in Long Beach. I'm true geek, walking by myself but left with 2 freaks. Ooh wee, nothing in they mouth and on they booty. Austin Power swag, yeah baby, this is groovy. You can call me money boy or you can call me nudie. Hood niggas, churches, chicken, let me get a 2-piece. Top down, 2-seater, let me feel the 2 breathe. Gotta hold it steady, chopper, kick it back like Bruce Lee. Lately I've been in the zone, I guess I'm in my 2-3. Don't call my phone for nothing less than a QP. Feeling like the Migos, cause my bitch is bad and bougie. All my haters love me, all these bitches just some groupies. Came a long way, I like to introduce the new me. Standing on business like I'm king or like I'm Drewski. Call me Ron Island cause I like my love for choosy. When we link it's a movie, she bustin' like a Uzi. I love the way she do me, I beat it up like Uzi. She dancing just like Suki. Call me Ron Island cause I love my love for choosy. When we link it's a movie, she bustin' like a Uzi. I love the way she do me, I beat it up like Uzi. She dancing just like Suki. I never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Niggas talking reckless, shooters, bitch ass with the quickness. Name pleading, sorry, baby, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 limp biscuit. Never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Nigga talking reckless, shooters, bitch ass with the quickness. Name pleading, sorry, baby, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 limp biscuit.